Chapter 1240. Roar! 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 The roars of strange beasts came from afar. Yi Shiwen's silhouette was like a lightning bolt and instantly arrived at that place. He saw that it was a valley, and the entire valley was surrounded by 3,000 feet high cliffs on three sides. This valley was very large and seemed to have a radius of several hundred miles. At this time, in this valley, countless terrifying exotic beasts were roaring one after another. Those terrifying roars rushed straight to the sky, like a sharp blade cutting through the sky. At a glance, it was unknown whether there were thousands or tens of thousands of terrifying exotic beasts in the valley. Even the weakest among them was at the law manifestation realm level, occupying one side. Thousands of exotic beasts at the law manifestation realm gathered together and occupied one side. How terrifying was it? Those who had not seen it with their own eyes would not be able to feel that kind of horror. In particular, once those exotic beasts attacked, the terrifying scene when tens of thousands of horses galloped could almost be compared to a major natural disaster. As far as Yi Shiwen's eyes could see, those exotic beasts were divided into two square formations. Under the leadership of two fierce beasts with terrifying aura, they looked at each other coldly. One of them was an extremely terrifying fierce beast, like an elephant-like fierce beast. Its whole body was wrapped in bones, and its figure was more than 10 meters high. From a distance, it looked like a small mountain. The other was an ape-like exotic beast. It walked upright on both feet, and the bones of its whole body were turned out as if it was wearing armor. During this period of time, Yi Shiwen was not as ignorant as before in the law enforcement heavenly prison. Everyone called these special exotic beasts in the law enforcement heavenly prison bone beast because their whole body was wrapped up. It was as if they were wearing pieces of armor. It was impossible for an ordinary person to break the bone armor and injure the insides. These two terrifying bone beasts were very terrifying at the 9th level of the law manifestation realm. They could almost be regarded as the peak of the law manifestation realm. Even compared with people like Yi Jinzhong and the North Mountain Clan chief, they were not at a disadvantage. In particular, the fighting style of these bone beasts was completely physical combat. Because there was a lack of spiritual chi in the law enforcement heavenly prison, it was impossible for them to be like those human warriors who could casually blast out magnificent martial arts attacks. But at the same time, because they could only use their bodies to attack, their physical attacks had also reached a terrifying level. A casual strike of theirs could produce the same effect as a martial artist using all of their quintessential essence. Their chi and blood were even more terrifying. Their vigorous chi and blood could almost be seen all over the sky. This kind of vigorous chi and blood was the nemesis of some evil martial arts, so some warriors who practiced evil martial arts were completely tragic after entering the law enforcement heavenly prison. These bone beasts were very difficult to deal with. Now, these bone beasts at the law manifestation realm made Yi Shiwen feel a little scared. Beside these two fierce beasts, there were also a large number of law manifestation realm fierce beasts. Even bone beasts at the 8th level of law manifestation realm. It could be said that this was a battle to the death between the two fierce beasts. Yi Shiwen did not know why they actually gathered here, and it seemed that they did not hesitate to fight to the death. However, what Yi Shiwen did not expect was that the Gue Bien duo, who had originally left, actually appeared here. The two brothers were also lying in ambush, not far away. Their eyes flashed as they looked at the scene in front of them, and a bit of greed flashed across their faces. Yi Shiwen's expression did not change. He restrained the aura on his body with the restraining breath technique and hid in the void. Although he could not hide in the secondary plane, it was enough to hide. With Yi Shiwen's current skill and understanding of the restraining breath technique, as long as he hid, unless he was discovered first, then basically no one would be able to discover his hiding place. Just a moment ago, he had escaped from the Gue Bien duo's pursuit. Big brother, you said that this is the divine, desolate blood fruit? The younger brother of the Gue Bien duo stared straight at the two sides in the valley, and there was a bit of greed on his face. That's right, it is the divine, desolate blood fruit. I did not expect to see the divine, desolate blood fruit here. It is really a blessing from the heavens. The elder brother of the Gag Bien duo also stared straight at the valley. It is said that this divine, desolate blood fruit can only be produced by watering it with the blood of countless bone beasts. Only one fruit will appear every 100 years. Once consumed, one's cultivation will rapidly advance by leaps and bounds. When Yi Shiwen heard the words, divine, desolate blood fruit, his body suddenly trembled. It was actually the divine, desolate blood fruit. Just like the Gue Bien duo, Yi Shiwen was also tempted. The divine, desolate blood fruit was famous even in the entire law enforcement heavenly prison. This was because this kind of heavenly treasure was very rare in the law enforcement heavenly prison. Even the spiritual energy on the main roads of the ancient Barrens continent could not compare to it. How could a heavenly treasure be produced in this kind of environment? This was because heavenly treasures could produce different effects due to the different energy they absorbed. However, the prerequisite was that they must have energy. It was impossible without energy. Therefore, the heavenly treasures produced in the law enforcement heavenly prison were very few. The divine desolate blood fruit was one of the best among them. Its fame was simply unimaginable because the divine desolate blood fruit's production method was very bloody. It was watered with the blood and corpses of countless exotic beasts. Every time the divine desolate blood fruit appeared, it would attract a large number of exotic beasts to fight for it. Each time, there would be heavy casualties, and these dead exotic beasts would become the nourishment for the next divine desolate blood fruit. It would not end without the death of 2,000 to 3,000 exotic beasts every time. Even if it did not reach this number, the 2 exotic beast commanders would probably order their subordinate bone beasts to die in order to obtain the nourishment needed for the next divine desolate blood fruit to bloom and bear fruit. This world was cruel to begin with. Although those bone beast commanders weren't very smart, their intelligence wasn't low. They had lived for thousands of years and had long since become wily. If they really treated them like wild beasts, they wouldn't even know when they would die. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen could not help but have a feeling that his eyes lit up. Although the 9 revolutions Taishian golden pill was good, it would be a waste if he did not consume it when he was about to break into the celestial realm. If it was not for the critical moment, Yi Shiwen did not want to waste the 9 revolutions Taishian golden pill. If the spirit crystals were wasted, he could rob them again. However, if the 9 revolutions Taishian golden pill was wasted, there would be no more. Could he expect the family to give him another one? If it was that easy, there would not be so many people who risked being blamed by the family head to kill him. It was not suitable to consume the 9 revolutions Taishian golden pill now, but the desolate blood divine fruit was very suitable. If he could have the desolate blood divine fruit, it would be a piece of cake for Yi Shiwen to step into the 5th heaven of the transcendence realm. However, all of this required careful planning. Not to mention the 2 terrifying beasts. Even the Gue Bien double clowns could pose a very big threat to Yi Shiwen, and might even kill him. His eyes flashed with all kinds of brilliance. Thousands of plans were madly calculated in his mind. With the help of the mysterious space, every plan could be deduced in an instant. The possible failures were also eliminated bit by bit. As the plan became more and more clear, his eyes brightened, and he looked more and more confident. He looked at the center of the valley and became more and more certain. While Yi Shiwen was calculating, the many bone beasts in the valley began to feel more and more uneasy. As the time of the desolate blood divine fruit's birth approached, the air seemed to be filled with a kind of bloody fragrance. This was the smell of the desolate blood divine fruit. After smelling this smell, the 2 bone beast commanders suddenly became excited from their crouching posture. They no longer had the lazy look they had before. Roar! The huge bone elephant let out a deafening roar and swung its huge trunk in the air, creating a huge crack on the ground. Many of the bone beasts on the side of the bone ape were shaken to the point that they bled from their 7 apertures and died on the spot. The elephant's trunk was originally the weakest part, but because it was wrapped in bones, it became very tyrannical. Although there were no spiritual fluctuations, this attack was not inferior to an all-out attack from an expert of the same level. Roar! At this time, the bone ape also seemed to be stimulated. It let out a loud roar, and the bone beasts under its command began to become restless. Immediately after, the bone ape seemed to have issued some kind of command, and the bone beasts under its command began to dig their claws and charge towards the other side. At this time, the bone elephant on the other side also began to issue orders. The two extremely large waves of vicious beasts collided with each other like two huge waves. The scene was extremely shocking. Even Yi Shiwen felt his blood boiling when he saw it from afar. Because there was no spiritual energy, they could only rely on their physical bodies to fight. Therefore, when these two huge waves of bone beasts charged, it was like a white bone army charging. Those bone beasts that charged the fastest were like waves, smashed instantly, and then sent flying into the sky. There was nothing fancy about it. It was just a barbaric and desolate collision of power. Even top experts like the Gui Bian duo's complexion changed greatly when they saw this scene. Under such a terrifying collision, they would be crushed into pieces in an instant. Only Yi Shiwen felt his blood boiling when he saw this scene. He couldn't wait to go down and fight. He didn't know if it was the influence of the star beast bloodline in his body, or if he was inclined towards such a hot-blooded battle. In this short moment of collision, hundreds of bone beasts were directly smashed to death, and countless more were injured. And at this time, the two bone beast commanders finally began to fight. Chapter 1241. It fought in the same way as other bone beasts, relying on its tyrannical bone armor to resist attacks. However, Yi Shiwen saw this scene, and his complexion changed because he felt an incomparably powerful martial art from the attack of this bone ape. Although it was not as gorgeous as the attack of human warriors, Yi Shiwen's complexion changed almost instantly when he saw this scene because he felt a kind of incomparably powerful martial art from the attack of this bone ape. Although it was not as gorgeous as the attack of human warriors, there was a kind of feeling of returning to the natural state. However, there was a feeling of returning to the natural state. Because there was no way to enhance it with spirit chi, he could only study skills. This bone ape's martial arts skills were probably above many human warriors. Coupled with its tyrannical body and exuberant chi and blood, the power of this punch was absolutely great. Yi Shiwen thought that if his tyrant body was hit by this punch, perhaps even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. This was something that could not be helped. Roar! The bone elephant directly roared and then directly swung its huge trunk. It was like a huge whip that instantly cut through the sky and fiercely met the attack. Bang! A loud, muffled sound was heard. The bone armor attached to the bodies of both sides were very hard and could not be easily broken. This time, the bone ape was directly sent flying. Although Yi Shiwen also possessed extraordinary strength, but compared to this skeletal elephant, there was still some disparity. However, his posture was more flexible, and each of his punches and kicks contained the might of martial arts, which was extraordinary. Therefore, although it seemed as if he had been sent flying, but in the eyes of an expert like Yi Shiwen, that blow a moment ago was absolutely on par with Yi Shiwen's. Yi Shiwen had directly borrowed the power of the void to offset that force, so that it couldn't hurt his body. That bone elephant was not going to let go. It directly ran with its terrifying legs. Some of the bone beasts in front of it did not have time to dodge, and were directly sent flying. One after another, they spouted blood. Some of the weaker ones were directly killed on the spot. From this, it could be seen that the bone ape just now was not an ordinary person. It was already very difficult for it to not lose when fighting against the bone elephant, which had boundless strength. Yi Shiwen would probably be able to compete with this skeletal elephant. After all, no matter how powerful this skeletal elephant was, it wasn't an ancient bloodline. There was no way for it to be compared with the tyrant body. It only had a tyrannical body. There was nothing too magical about it. Yi Shiwen was able to compete with the legendary physique. It was simply not the same thing. The moment the bone ape was sent flying, it pounced on him again. It did not give him any time to escape. It was another round of punches. Although it looked like a random punch, it contained the principle of killing an experienced master with a random punch. Under such a random punch, even those who were proficient in various martial arts could not withstand such a random punch. This routine was suitable for people with extraordinary strength and exuberant qi and blood. Sometimes, even Yi Shiwen was also like this. No matter what kind of martial arts moves he used, he would always bully his opponents because their strength was not as great as his and his speed was not as fast as his. That was true. The skeletal elephant also shook its long trunk and directly swung the power of the shadowless whip. Even the naked eye could not see its movements. It directly lashed the whip towards the bone ape. This movement was extremely fast. Although its body was not very flexible, its trunk was abnormally flexible. Bang! The bone ape nimbly dodged. The ground was directly drawn out a terrifying crack that was hundreds of meters long. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Yi Shiwen looked at the battle between the two bone beasts from afar. There was nothing fake about the battle between them. There was only a terrifying physical confrontation. This was in fact the most in line with Yi Shiwen's taste. However, he did not dare to rush out now. Once he was targeted by the two bone beast armies, he would be dead. The killing continued. However, Yi Shiwen knew that it was not over yet. This was because the nourishment needed for the next desolate blood holy fruit had not been collected. This was like some kind of ceremony. It was very cruel and bloody, but it was necessary. Surviving in the law enforcement heavenly prison was extremely cruel. No bone beast dared to approach the center of the battle between these two fierce beasts. Once they approached, they might be killed by them. Compared to these two bone beasts at the 9th level of the law manifestation realm, the other bone beasts were too weak. It even made people feel that they were not on the same level at all. Yi Shiwen's expression was solemn. He was afraid that these two bone beasts were not far from the half-step celestial realm. If these two bone beasts swallowed the desolate blood holy fruit this time, then breaking through to the half-step celestial realm would be inevitable. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, thinking about how to snatch the food from the hands of the two bone beasts. Big brother, these two bone beasts are too powerful. It will not be easy for us to snatch it. At this time, not far in front of Yi Shiwen, the younger of the Gui Bian duo Cho said. Although he was arrogant, he was not stupid. He knew very well that the two brothers were only at the peak of the 8th level of the law manifestation realm. Compared to these two bone beasts at the peak of the 9th level of the law manifestation realm, there was obviously a huge gap. If the two of us join forces, we can still block these two bone beasts for a short period of time. When the time comes, we can snatch the desolate blood holy fruit and leave. As long as we get rid of the pursuit of these two bone beasts, we can find a place to cultivate in seclusion and break through to the 9th level of the law manifestation realm. By then, Yi Shiwen will not be able to escape from our hands at all. The 9 revolutions Taishian golden pill will also be ours. Haha, do you think this is God's blessing for us? These bone beasts are also very cunning. Usually, even in such a large-scale battle, humans will rarely see them, let alone the cultivation of this desolate blood holy fruit. Although the process is a little bloody, it is still very effective. The elder of the Gui Bian duo Cho said with a little excitement. It was as if he could see the day when he had entered the celestial realm and could summon the wind and rain in the law enforcement heavenly prison. That's really wishful thinking. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. He had heard all these words. It was ridiculous that these two brothers wanted to scheme against him, but they did not know that Yi Shiwen was behind them. This was almost like asking a tiger for its skin. The Gui Bian duo Cho had been chasing him for a whole month. Between the two sides, there was already no end. As long as he had the opportunity, he would definitely not let these two scourges go. Just as Yi Shiwen was slowly calculating, the frenzied battle of the experts also gradually came to a stop. In such a short period of time, thousands of bone beasts had died tragically on the spot. The corpses were almost piled up like a mountain, and a full 1/3 of the bone beasts had died tragically on the spot. These bone beasts were huge in size and had a lot of blood in their bodies. With so many dead, the blood flowed like a river, but the strange thing was that the blood was almost absorbed by the ground in a very short period of time, as if it had completely seeped into the ground. And at this time, the two sides finally stopped this crazy killing. They stood on the corpses and stared at each other like tigers watching their prey. as if waiting for something. Yi Shiwen waited for almost another quarter of an hour, and the entire ground began to hum. On the ground, a green sphere grew from the ground. The moment it appeared, the bone beasts that were originally quiet suddenly became restless. All of them stood up at once, especially the two bone beast commanders at the 9th level of the law manifestation realm. Their eyes suddenly widened. Although they were in the form of beasts, their intelligence was not low. They were very clear what this meant, and at this moment, the green sphere was wrapped in many leaves. After these green leaves opened one by one, there was a bright red fruit in the center. It was delicate and beautiful, and it was the size of a fist. That kind of bright red had a kind of enchanting feeling. This was the enchanting feeling that was watered by blood. It was different from the ordinary bright red color. It was unknown how many bone beasts had died tragically to really irrigate such a beautiful color. Roar! 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 There was a burst of messy beast roars, and those bone beasts suddenly went crazy. Seeing this, they instantly began to rush towards the desolate blood holy fruit. In particular, the skeletal elephant and the skeletal ape took the lead and flew towards the desolate blood divine fruit in a frenzy. Although they could not fly, their speed was extremely fast as lightning. It was no better than flying, and they directly rushed forward. And at this time, Yi Shiwen only heard Gui Bian Cho in front of him shouting, "Attack! Let's work together and snatch the desolate blood holy fruit." And just when those bone beasts were about to reach the desolate blood holy fruit, the bone ape was even faster and directly grabbed the desolate blood holy fruit. Just when it was about to grab it, it saw a terrifying attack coming from the sky. A huge torrent of energy fell from the sky, and it actually almost killed the bone ape. The bone ape hadn't expected such a sudden attack. However, it was much stronger than the bone ape, so it reacted in an instant. It stepped on the ground, and its body turned into nothingness. It jumped out from a distance and dodged the attack. Boom! The attack fiercely hit the desolate blood holy fruit, and countless smoke and dust rose up. The smoke and dust dispersed, and the desolate blood holy fruit did not seem to have suffered any attack, and there was not the slightest change. It was still so delicate and beautiful, but even so, this sudden attack made the bone ape suddenly burn with anger. It was an old ape that had lived for thousands of years, and it could be considered as an old ape. What kind of scene had it not seen? Almost in an instant, it almost judged that it was a human who had attacked. Only those humans in this world could use spirit chi attack methods that surprised it. It constantly roared, and its eyes swept around as if it was looking for the real attacker. Attack! Accompanied by a roar, two figures directly appeared in the crowd of bone beasts. Chapter 1242. It was the Gui Bian twin clowns. They wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. They were really bold because there were not only two terrifying bone beasts at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm, but there were also many bone beasts at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm. Roar! The bone ape was the first to react. It blasted out a punch, and the terrifying power shook the air, causing it to collapse instantly. It tore a huge crack in the air, as if a ferocious beast had opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the Gui Bian duo. Break for me! The Gui Bian twin clowns quickly shouted. The two of them joined forces, and a terrifying power leaped out from their bodies. It soared into the sky and directly shattered the incoming fist force. Since they had decided to fight for it, they had already expected such a situation to happen. Although the two of them were no match for the experts at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm, at least they wouldn't be at the mercy of others. Their figures were still constantly advancing, wanting to get closer to the desolate blood divine fruit. At this time, a huge trunk that was like a small mountain smashed down in their direction. If they insisted on rushing forward, they would be smashed into a meat patty. It was the skeletal elephant that made a move. Other than them, the group of experts at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm also reacted extremely quickly. In the next second, they attacked the Gui Bian twin clowns. The situation of the Gui Bian twin clowns suddenly turned bad. It was almost a dead end. not to mention the two experts at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm. Even the bone beasts at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm were not inferior to them. It was extremely difficult to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. Just at the moment when they were about to be hit by the trunk of the skeletal elephant, the Gue Bien twin clowns reacted almost instantly and stopped in their tracks. Boom! The huge trunk cracked the ground. The unimaginably terrifying power made the Gue Bien twin clowns' expressions change. Although they were prepared, such a terrifying power still made their expressions change slightly. If they were hit directly, all the bones in their body would be smashed. There wouldn't be a single intact bone. However, they only paused for a moment. After the elephant's trunk hit the ground, they began to rush over frantically again. Roar! 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 These bone beasts were almost completely enraged in an instant. These two humans really didn't know what was good for them. Immediately, the bones on their bodies shot out like bullets. Xiao! 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 Countless bones were thrown out like bullets, forming a rain of bullets in the sky, all of which went towards the Gue Bien Duo Cho. Although they didn't have the means of mobilizing Lingqi like human warriors, but the bones on their bodies were the best long-range attack means. They could easily throw these bones dozens of kilometers away, just like the tiger-shaped beast that Yi Shiwen had encountered that day. Although thousands of bone beasts had died in battle before, there were still thousands of them left. The densely packed bones formed a sky curtain like a rain of bullets, bombarding down in an overwhelming manner. Almost at the same time, Yi Shiwen discovered that several similar green flower buds had begun to grow near the original desolate blood divine fruit. There was more than one desolate blood divine fruit. Yi Shiwen now finally understood why the Gue Bien Duo Cho dared to attack. If there was only one desolate blood divine fruit, they would undoubtedly be courting death by attacking like this. This army of bone beasts would definitely not let them go. After all, there was only one desolate blood divine fruit in total. Even if they fled to the ends of the earth, it would be useless. No one could bear the anger of these bone beasts. Even Yi Shiwen wouldn't do such a thing if he couldn't do it. Although cultivation was very important, no matter what, it was not as important as his own life. At this time, the eldest of the Gue Bien Duo, Cho, directly spat out a mouthful of blood. It seemed that he had activated some kind of secret technique. The blood essence in his body instantly ignited. He turned around and spread out his hands. An invisible wave emerged from his hands, forming a chi wall. Puff! 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 In an instant, the bone bullets hit the chi wall, but there was no way for them to penetrate it. Although it was only for a moment, it was enough for the second brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho. He almost ignored everything behind him and flew to the desolate blood divine fruit that had already bloomed. He directly split the barrier of the desolate blood divine fruit and snatched the desolate blood divine fruit. Go quickly, I will help you block it for a while. The eldest brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho quickly shouted. At this time, a strange flush appeared on his face. His forehead was also densely covered with cold sweat. It was obvious that he had used all his strength to support this chi wall, even if it was only for a short moment. The second brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho didn't hesitate and directly rushed out with the desolate blood divine fruit. He almost disappeared in front of everyone's eyes in an instant. The long trunk of the bone elephant suddenly elongated and directly smashed out a 10-meter-tall small mountain. Then, with lightning speed, it directly shot out like a meteor. Although the movements of the second brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho were also very fast, he still couldn't outrun the small mountain and was directly smashed head-on. Puff! The second brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt like his internal organs were completely shattered, and who knew how many bones in his back were smashed. Fortunately, his spine was not smashed. But even so, his figure slightly swayed, and he almost fell from the sky. Second brother. When the eldest brother of the Gue Bien Duo Cho saw that the second brother was almost smashed to death by the small mountain, he immediately roared and increased the strength of his obstruction. These losses were all anticipated beforehand. How could it be possible to snatch food from the tiger's mouth without paying a price? The second brother of the Gui Bien Duo Cho directly left the scene without looking back. Behind him were the many angry roars of the bone beasts. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. These things sounded simple, but just now, if they had made the slightest mistake, they would have been buried. In fact, just now, they just took advantage of the fact that these bone beasts did not know, so they were caught off guard. Oh! Suddenly, he sensed a fluctuation in the space. Like a wild beast, it was undoubtedly the most sensitive time when it was injured because it was the time when it was least confident. Moreover, it was such a serious injury. He could feel that all of his internal organs had been shattered. If he hadn't used all his strength to block the attack, it wouldn't have been just broken, it would have been completely crushed into powder. The strength of that skeletal elephant was truly terrifying. The strength to uproot mountains and rivers was definitely not a joke. He did not know how many bones in his body were broken. Even since his debut, this was one of the few injuries he had suffered. But these injuries were all within his expectations. As long as he could obtain the desolate blood holy fruit, everything would be worth it. How could he not be sensitive at this time? TSK, you are much more sensitive than before. I didn't expect you to find me. But then he heard a clear, teasing voice coming from the void, and a figure gradually flashed out. Yi Shiwen, it's you? The second brother of the Gui Bien Duo widened his eyes. He did not expect that the person who ambushed him here would turn out to be the prey they had been chasing for more than a month, Yi Shiwen. You didn't expect it, right? Sometimes life is so wonderful. A second ago, you were still the hunter, but now, you're going to become my prey. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and smiled brightly. You really have guts. Do you think you're a match for me? Even if I am seriously injured, I am not someone you can covet. Moreover, when my eldest brother arrives, you will be dead. The second brother of the Gui Bien Duo also said with a stern expression. No one knew his current situation better than himself. Now, he could only try to scare Yi Shiwen as much as possible and wait for his eldest brother to come out before making plans. You were right. When your eldest brother comes out, then the problem will be tricky. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and said immediately, So, you can go to hell now. Yi Shiwen stepped out, and his figure directly turned into a ball of golden lightning, instantly appearing in front of the second brother of the Gui Bien Duo. Shattering star fist. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and countless stars entwined on it. It evolved into a huge star and directly blasted down. So fast. Even though the Gui Bien Duo already knew that Yi Shiwen's speed was extremely fast in the past month, they now found that Yi Shiwen's speed seemed to be even faster. No, he soon discovered to his horror that it was not that Yi Shiwen's speed was faster, but after he was injured, his reaction speed was obviously not as fast as before. It was his strength that had declined. Bang! He only had time to spread his hands and create a chi wall in front of his chest, but Yi Shiwen's attack arrived in the blink of an eye. The fist energy directly crushed his chi wall into pieces, and then fiercely hit his body. Puff! He directly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his chest was directly dented by Yi Shiwen's fist. His sternum was completely shattered and turned into powder. The strength of Yi Shiwen's fist was unimaginable. How can this be? The second brother of the Gui Bien Duo looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. He couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen, who was originally their prey, would become so terrifying. This is impossible. Yi Shiwen, who is only at the 4th level of Law Manifestation Realm, can actually seriously injure him. Even if he is seriously injured, this shouldn't be possible. Go to hell and think about it. Yi Shiwen sneered. He took another step forward, and the boundless star power condensed on his fist once again. Stop! An angry roar came from afar. It was the eldest brother of the Gui Bien Duo who arrived. Chapter 1243. Yi Shiwen heard the order to stop, but he didn't have the slightest intention to stop. He directly punched the second brother of the Gui Bien Duo. Boom! With a muffled sound, the already seriously injured Gui Bien Duo was directly killed by Yi Shiwen's punch. His eyes were wide open until his death. He couldn't believe it, and he was unwilling to believe it. It was actually such a situation. He was actually killed by a guy at the 4th level of the law phase realm, even if he was seriously injured. This was not logical. Yi Shiwen didn't pay attention to his incredulity and instantly snatched the desolate blood holy fruit. He also snatched away all his belongings. The Gui Bian duo had an illustrious reputation, but they didn't have a lot of wealth. They had just reached 200 million spirit crystals. But thinking about it, although they were powerful and robbed a lot of people's spirit crystals, in this place without spiritual energy, they could only rely on spirit crystals to cultivate. Although they didn't consume as much as Yi Shiwen, with their strength at the peak of the 8th level of the law phase realm, their consumption was not much different. It was not easy to save 200 million spirit crystals. You! How dare you! The eldest brother of the Gui Bian duo looked at Yi Shiwen in exasperation. He pointed at Yi Shiwen, and his huge body trembled slightly. He suddenly had a feeling of anger. They had been brothers for thousands of years. Their relationship was deep to the point that ordinary people couldn't imagine. Now that he saw his younger brother die in Yi Shiwen's hands, his eyes were already red with anxiety. There was still some disbelief in his heart. How is this possible? Even if my younger brother was seriously injured, he was still at the peak of the 8th level of the law phase realm. Yi Shiwen was at the peak of the 4th level of the law phase realm. The difference was too big. How could this be? Yi Shiwen didn't care about the eldest brother of the Gui Bian duo. In the past 3 months, although he didn't have the time to enter the 5th level of the law phase realm, in terms of combat power, he could even fight against some experts at the 8th level of the law phase realm. He wouldn't be easily defeated. This was also the fundamental reason why the Gui Bian duo couldn't catch Yi Shiwen after chasing him for a month. Now that the second brother of the Gui Bian duo was seriously injured, his strength was less than 10%. He was not Yi Shiwen's opponent at his peak at all. Courting death. The eldest of the Gui Bian twin clowns was extremely angry. His hand set off a terrifying, raging tide of energy. Countless energy formed a terrifying cyclone in his hand. Then, he crushed it and turned it into a terrifying torrent of energy. Then, this torrent of energy rushed towards Yi Shiwen and crushed him. Yi Shiwen sneered and instantly unfolded the storm wings behind him, easily avoiding this energy torrent. Boom! The elder of the Gui Bian duo, Cho, blasted out a torrent of energy towards a distant mountain peak, directly blasting it into pieces. Countless smoke and dust swept up, submerging the world. In this smoke and dust, Yi Shiwen's storm wings were constantly flapping behind him, and the smoke and dust simply couldn't get close to him. Die! And at this moment, the eldest of the Gui Bian duo, Cho, had already pounced over again. His fist pressure was terrifying to the extreme, and the fist force tore through the sky as if it could blast a hole in the sky with a single punch. Yi Shiwen continuously stepped on the ground, and those fist energies simply could not bombard his body. His storm wings had already been practiced to the level of great perfection. This small range of teleportation was simply extremely fast. How can he be so fast? The Gui Bian duo Cho saw that Yi Shiwen easily avoided their attacks, and they immediately exclaimed in disbelief. Like the second brother of the Gui Bian duo Cho, they had seen Yi Shiwen's speed before, but they had never seen Yi Shiwen's speed after unfolding the demon wings. He also knew that this was probably some kind of movement technique, but he didn't expect that after using this movement technique, there would be such a terrifying increase in speed. In order to keep it a secret, Yi Shiwen kept this demon wings to save his life at a critical moment. Perhaps it could save his life at a critical moment. Something like a trump card was most useful if the opponent didn't know about it, and only then could it achieve an unexpected effect. But now, Yi Shiwen used it, because in his eyes, the eldest of the Gui Bian duo Cho was already a dead man. What's with all this nonsense? Yi Shiwen sneered. After avoiding the attack of the eldest brother of the Gui Bian duo Cho, Yi Shiwen directly took out the desolate blood holy fruit, then directly opened his mouth and swallowed it. Accompanied by a little bloody fragrance, Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that after the desolate blood holy fruit entered his body, it turned into a torrent of energy that occupied the position of his chest, causing his heartbeat to accelerate crazily. Yi Shiwen quickly mobilized the observing person scripture and began to absorb these torrents of energy. At the same time, he also suppressed these energies, lest they forcefully burst Yi Shiwen's heart. "Little bastard, you dare?" At this time, the eldest brother of the Gay Bien duo, Cho, opened his eyes wide, and tears of blood directly flowed out of his eyes. First, his younger brother died in Yi Shiwen's hands, and then the desolate blood holy fruit that they had paid a great price to obtain was actually swallowed by Yi Shiwen. This was a huge blow to him. "Bastard, I'm going to refine you into a human elixir. You can't completely absorb it now. I'm going to refine you into a human elixir, then refine out the medicinal power within. I'm going to swallow you one bite at a time." The eldest brother of the Gay Bien duo, Chao's face was incomparably ferocious, as if he was a demon that had crawled out of hell. He almost immediately thought of a way to refine Yi Shiwen into a human elixir and refine out the medicinal power that he had yet to fully absorb. In this way, although he couldn't swallow the desolate blood holy fruit, the effect was almost the same, and it might even be a level higher. Each of these warriors had swallowed countless treasures of heaven and earth and had countless fortuitous encounters. Their bodies themselves were the greatest miracle in the world, and they were treasures of heaven and earth. Human elixir? Just based on this sentence, don't even think about leaving today. Go accompany your brother. Yi Shiwen sneered. He could feel that in his body, a powerful force began to expand wildly. As more and more medicinal power was absorbed by him, he almost didn't need to use the observing person scripture to automatically break through to the fifth sky of the transcendence realm. In these 3 months, although Yi Shiwen didn't have enough time to break through to the fifth sky of the transcendence realm in one go, he was actually almost there. He only needed one last step. Originally, he planned to find a place to break through after getting rid of the Gue Bien duo Cho. He didn't expect to find this opportunity after swallowing the desolate blood holy fruit today. Yi Shiwen's body was crackling, and his strength and aura were also increasing bit by bit. "You're courting death." At this time, the eldest brother of the Gue Bien duo Cho also understood that the effect of the desolate blood holy fruit was very good. Yi Shiwen's strength was actually rising continuously. If he continued and broke through directly, it would be a disaster for him. Although he didn't know what cultivation method Yi Shiwen cultivated, he could actually faintly contend with him a peak 8th sky of the Transcendence Realm, at the 4th sky of the Transcendence Realm. But he knew that he absolutely couldn't let Yi Shiwen continue. Otherwise, when Yi Shiwen entered the 5th sky of the Transcendence Realm, then everything would change. He also knew that the best thing to do now was to immediately turn around and leave. Yi Shiwen, who was in a hurry to break through, should not have the intention to chase after him, and should not have the ability to chase after him. But the desire for the desolate blood holy fruit and the hatred of his brother's tragic death blinded his eyes. At this time, he attacked Yi Shiwen like a madman. Yi Shiwen didn't try to dodge or evade. Instead, he went tit for tat. Although Yi Shiwen would be blasted away every time, but every time he was blasted away, his strength would increase by a bit. It seemed that the more he fought, the stronger he became. Every time they collided, the majestic power could dissolve the power of the desolate blood holy fruit in his body a bit, and his strength was also strengthened a bit. Seeing that Yi Shiwen's strength continued to rise, how could the elder of the Gue Bien duo not know that it was because of the power of the desolate blood holy fruit? His heart was filled with hatred, and he constantly bombarded Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was not anxious. Although he would suffer some minor injuries every time he was blasted away, he was always using the Phoenix regeneration technique. It could be said that when he was injured, he was almost healed, and he was always at the peak state. Yi Shiwen clung to him tightly, and all kinds of attacks swept over. It was as if he had become a practiced target, and all kinds of martial arts moves were at his fingertips. Without any pause, he blasted over. The elder of the Gue Bien duo was also getting more and more depressed as the fight went on. Slowly, he finally realized that according to this situation, he probably wouldn't be able to take down Yi Shiwen for a long time. Yi Shiwen's aura was also getting stronger, and he was probably going to enter the 5th sky of the Transcendence Realm. Immediately, he no longer hesitated and directly blasted out a punch. After forcing Yi Shiwen away, he turned around and fled. Want to leave? Where do you think you're going? Yi Shiwen shouted, and the aura that was originally stagnant suddenly swept out wildly, directly crossing the boundary between the fourth sky and fifth sky of the Transcendence realm. The aura on his body also soared crazily, and compared to before, it was a complete change. After entering the fifth sky of the Transcendence realm, Yi Shiwen's aura was completely different from before. He directly caught up with the elder of the Gui Bien duo in one step, and he directly grabbed with his golden hand. The elder of the Gui Bien duo was already seriously injured, and he was entangled by Yi Shiwen just now, so he had no time to recover, so he couldn't even take down Yi Shiwen previously. Now that Yi Shiwen had entered the fifth sky of the Transcendence realm, there was a huge difference in the strength between the two sides. Bang! The elder of the Gui Bien duo was directly crushed by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Chapter 1244. The wealth of the eldest brother of the Gui Bien's two clowns also fell into Yi Shiwen's hands. The wealth of the eldest brother of the Gui Bien's two clowns wasn't much more than that of his younger brother. He only had about 300 million spirit crystals. Moreover, he didn't have many heavenly treasures besides spirit crystals. The law enforcement heavenly prison didn't produce many heavenly treasures. Therefore, they could only obtain these heavenly treasures from the disciples of the Yi clan occasionally. These treasures could be sold for a high price, but it was only a high price. Generally speaking, to maximize the value of these treasures, it was still the alchemists, blacksmiths, and so on in the major forces. And these warriors were just sitting back and enjoying the fruits of others' labor, including Yi Shiwen. Although he knew alchemy and blacksmithing, generally speaking, he rarely did anything because there was no need at all. Except for a few times, most of the time he could be replenished from various aspects. After so many years, he had accumulated a lot of treasures of various levels. Except for Yi Mo, who had been paying attention to this. Even Yi Shiwen himself had lost count. The bodies of the Gui Bien twin clowns were swept into the Tianyuan mirror. Yi Shiwen glanced around. The roars of the bone beasts were still in the distance, and they did not come over. Obviously, there were still several desolate blood divine fruits there. It was obviously not worthwhile to give up the others for one desolate blood divine fruit. Although Yi Shiwen was very tempted by the remaining desolate blood divine fruits, he also knew that even if he had entered the fifth level of the law phase realm, it was obviously impossible for him to be the opponent of the two bone beasts. Moreover, after swallowing the desolate blood divine fruit, the two bone beasts would soon enter the half-step celestial realm, and the gap between them would be further widened. If he went over now, he would only be courting death. He checked the energy of the desolate blood divine fruit in his body. Because he had entered the fifth level of the law phase realm, he had absorbed a full 1/3 of the fruit, and there was still 2/3 left. This desolate blood divine fruit was indeed worthy of its reputation. Only 1/3 of the energy was consumed, and it allowed him to directly break through to the fifth level of the law phase realm. Of course, this was also because he had accumulated a lot of energy, but it could not be denied that the effect of the desolate blood divine fruit was very significant. Without any hesitation, Yi Shiwen took a step forward and left immediately. In his heart, he had a plan that might seem like an audacious plan to ordinary people. Yi Shiwen left quietly. The death of the Gui Bien duo Cho was regarded as insignificant in the entire law enforcement heavenly prison. In a place like the law enforcement heavenly prison, the death of any person was not enough to make the law enforcement heavenly prison tremble unless it was the death of a celestial being expert. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a big deal at all. It would be like the death of an insignificant person. The hunt for Yi Shiwen was still ongoing. Previously, because the Gui Bien twin clowns were the main force, the others didn't seem so obvious. But with the unexpected death of the Gui Bien twin clowns, many people began to emerge, especially many tyrannical experts like the Gui Bien twin clowns. However, no one had expected that Yi Shiwen, who they had initially thought was just like a mouse, would turn out to ambush these experts who were hunting him down. Regardless of whether it was the Yi family's disciples or the sinners, He had killed several Eighth Heaven of the Transcendence Realm experts. They were all famous, and many of them were even stronger than the Gue Bien duo. Dealing with these people was not as easy for Yi Shiwen to deal with the Gue Bien duo Cho, who were already severely injured. Because the Gue Bien duo Cho were seriously injured, even if Yi Shiwen had just entered the Fifth Heaven Transcendence Realm, he could still easily defeat them. However, the other people who were hunting Yi Shiwen were all terrifying experts at the peak of the Eighth Heaven Transcendence Realm. Naturally, it was not that simple. Although the experts at the ninth level of the Transcendence Realm were also paying attention to this matter, they had no intention of taking action personally. This was because they were often the leaders of a force. Although they would command their subordinates to hunt down someone, it was still very rare for them to hunt down someone like Yi Jianzhong. However, they obviously didn't expect that Yi Shiwen had been reborn. In just 1 month, several Eighth Heaven Transcendence Realm experts had fallen in their hands. Although some of them were stronger than Yi Shiwen, they didn't know that Yi Shiwen had been reborn. So, they had suffered a big loss in Yi Shiwen's hands because they had underestimated him. And the price of this big loss was their lives. They had paid the price with their lives. Later, as more and more Eighth Heaven Transcendence Realm experts fell in Yi Shiwen's hands, they all began to be vigilant. But Yi Shiwen had completely grown up. After a dozen fierce battles, Yi Shiwen had already absorbed 1/3 of the desolate blood divine fruit's energy, and his cultivation had been pushed to the peak of the Fifth Heaven Transcendence Realm. Even if they were not injured, they were not Yi Shiwen's opponents at all. And Yi Shiwen also became famous because of this. In the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, he suddenly became unusually famous. Originally, in their opinion, Yi Shiwen was just a junior, and he was still a prey being hunted. Although he had the title of the tournament champion, it was nothing in the eyes of those real powerhouses. Being the champion of the tournament only proved that you had the potential. However, if you had no way of growing up, then whatever potential you had was useless. Only a genius that had grown up was a genius. A genius that had not grown up was just a pile of bones. But now, Yi Shiwen gave them a big slap in the face with reality. Those who underestimated him were all dumbfounded. One had to know that these experts at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm were not ordinary. Apart from the few Transcendence Realm powerhouses, the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm was enough to form a force in the Enforcer Sky Prison. An expert at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm was definitely enough to run amok. As long as they didn't provoke the 9th Heaven Transcendence Realm Master, they were basically invincible. There were many 8th Heaven Transcendence Realm experts like the Gue Bien Duo Cho, who had been running amok for many years in the law enforcement heavenly prison. But now, all of them died in Yi Shiwen's hands. If it was a sneak attack and an ambush at the beginning, then the tyrannical experts at the peak of the 8th level of the Law Manifestation Realm were directly defeated by Yi Shiwen face to face. Some witnesses said that in the end, those experts couldn't hold on for long in Yi Shiwen's hands. They were completely defeated and finally killed with a slap. Yi Shiwen's ruthlessness could be seen from this. Whether it was the sinners or the Yi family's children, once they offended him, there was only a dead end. Even if they were the Yi family's children, he would not be lenient at all. He directly crushed them to death. These were all geniuses of the Yi clan. They should have had a boundless future, but now they all died in his hands. Not to mention those sinners. Some of them had been free and unfettered for thousands of years, but now they all died tragically in his hands. For a time, countless people were silent. Those who were clamoring to kill Yi Shiwen were now quiet all of a sudden. Although the 9 Revolutions Taishian Golden Elixir was good, one must be alive to enjoy it. At this time, except for the masters of the major forces who were at the 9th Heaven Transcendence Realm, who dared to say that they could suppress Yi Shiwen. Among those 8th Heaven Transcendence Realm experts who died in Yi Shiwen's hands, there were many old monsters who had lived for thousands of years. For them, it could be said that it was difficult to improve their cultivation. Their only hope was to seize the 9 Revolutions Taishian Golden Elixir so that their cultivation could improve further. For them, It did not matter if they swallowed the 9 revolutions Taishian golden elixir when they were about to cross the celestial realm retribution, because they might not even be able to reach the half-step law realm. It was only possible with the help of the 9 revolutions Taishian golden elixir. These old monsters had accumulated a lot and lived for thousands of years. Ordinary geniuses would be defeated and die tragically when they encountered them. However, when they encountered Yi Shiwen, they were like pieces of paper, easily slaughtered by him. It was as if their reputation of thousands of years was just a bluff. With these people as a lesson, these old monsters who had been cultivating for many years did not dare to act rashly. Suddenly, the entire situation became abnormally cold. No one was shouting to capture Yi Shiwen anymore. It didn't matter whether it was the Yi clan's side or the sinner's side. It seemed as if they were afraid of being beaten by Yi Shiwen. However, Yi Shiwen knew that this was just the calm before the storm. Everyone knew the temptation of the 9 revolutions Taishian golden elixir. They would never give up so easily, especially the masters of the various forces. Their strength was even above the current Yi Shiwen. They did not give up the fight for the 9 revolutions Taishian golden elixir. They were just waiting for a chance to give Yi Shiwen a fatal blow. And the next large-scale storm would definitely not be just the experts of the 8th heaven of the law realm. It might be the terrifying experts of the 9th heaven of the law realm, or even the half-step celestial realm. In particular, the half-step celestial realm experts needed the 9 revolutions Taishian golden elixir the most urgently. They were only half a step away from the celestial realm, but it was like a natural mode. They did not dare to cross the retribution easily, or they might die. These people must also be paying close attention to this matter. If it was an ordinary person, they might be eager to hide at this time, or even directly leave the law enforcement heavenly prison to avoid this period of time. However, Yi Shiwen was definitely not such a person. He was a person who did not play by the rules. After getting rid of the people who were monitoring him, Yi Shiwen directly found Yi Qianhe. What? You want to know where the Golden Jade Pavilion is in the law enforcement heavenly prison? Chapter 1245. What? You want to know where Golden Jade Pavilion is in the law enforcement heavenly prison? Yi Qianhe looked at Yi Shiwen with a startled expression. He hadn't expected that Yi Shiwen would be so audacious. He had heard a lot about Yi Shiwen's achievements during this time, but he asked himself that even if he was in Yi Shiwen's shoes, he would never be able to do what Yi Shiwen did. Although he had also entered the 8th heaven of the Transcendence realm, there was still a big gap between him and those famous figures who died tragically in Yi Shiwen's hands. It was not easy to escape from these people, let alone to ambush and kill them one by one. None of the experts in the 8th sky of the law manifestation realm dared to be presumptuous in front of Yi Shiwen. Even the entire law enforcement heavenly prison was quiet all of a sudden, as if they were scared into silence by Yi Shiwen's brutal means. But everyone knew that this was just the calm before the storm. The next wave of attacks might be from the 9th sky of the law manifestation realm, or even from the half-step celestial realm. At that time, Yi Shiwen would not be able to be so carefree. In everyone's opinion, Yi Shiwen should be hiding or even leaving the law enforcement heavenly prison. However, Yi Shiwen didn't have the slightest intention to leave. He even dared to ask for the location of the Golden Jade Pavilion's encampment. This was simply too bold. Did he want to give the Golden Jade Pavilion a blow? But looking at Yi Shiwen's appearance, it seemed that he really wanted to give Golden Jade Pavilion a blow. You don't really want to fight them, Yi Qianhe said. Of course, they chased me for a few months, so I could not practice properly. It is not my character to not repay such a great favor, Yi Shiwen said with a grin, and a hint of fierceness flashed in his eyes. Yi Shiwen dared to attack those who wanted to deal with him, even if it was the emperor. For him, it made no difference. Although Yi Qianhe did not want the Yi family to kill each other, he knew that sometimes there was no other way. For the disciples of the law enforcement hall of the Yi family, being able to enter the heavenly law enforcement prison to train was not an easy thing in itself. It required a lot of clan contribution points. For ordinary people, it was very difficult to earn clan contribution points, even for Yi Qianhe. Now Yi Shiwen had a total of a year to practice, and a small part of the time was wasted here. How could he swallow this? But Yi Jianzhong is almost always guarding the Golden Jade Pavilion Station. You are not his opponent now. Yi Qianhe was very accurate. No matter how strong Yi Shiwen was now, there was no way to compete with Yi Jianzhong. So, I have to lure him away. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, in the Golden Jade Pavilion in the law enforcement heavenly prison, the only one that Yi Shiwen was afraid of was Yi Jianzhong. It was imperative to lead him away. Yi Shiwen quickly left the city after he had ascertained the location of the Golden Jade Pavilion Station in the law enforcement heavenly prison. He couldn't stay in one place for a long time because of the pursuit of the major forces. Soon, Yi Shiwen, who had been quiet for a while, finally made a big move. He directly ambushed a team from the Golden Jade Pavilion. A total of 1 expert at the 7th heaven of the Transcendence Realm and several experts at the 6th heaven of the Transcendence Realm were all killed by Yi Shiwen. In the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, this was like throwing a boulder into a calm lake. In particular, the Golden Jade Pavilion was furious all of a sudden. In their opinion, Yi Shiwen was just their prey. It was already good enough that they did not chase him, but he actually dared to fight back. For them, this was simply a great provocation and humiliation. Although everyone knew that this was only the calm before the storm, but the first one to break the calm was actually Yi Shiwen. This made many people who were paying attention to this matter suddenly have a kind of inconceivable feeling. Yi Shiwen had completely subverted their cognition. In other words, they did not expect that Yi Shiwen would be so unconventional. When everyone thought that he might leave the law enforcement heavenly prison, he did not leave. Instead, he launched a counterattack. The Golden Jade Pavilion soon received the news. Soon, someone spread the news. Yi Jianzhong, who was furious, quickly brought 3 experts at the 8th level of the Law Phase realm and more than a dozen experts at the 7th level of the Law Phase realm to find Yi Shiwen. Swoosh! 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 In the sky, more than a dozen streamers swept across the sky. The person in the lead was Yi Jianzhong. In a place that none of them noticed, a pair of eyes followed them closely. It was Yi Shiwen. After confirming that Yi Jianzhong and the others had really gone to look for him, Yi Shiwen's figure directly turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. He went directly in the direction of the Golden Jade Pavilion Station. The Golden Jade Pavilion Station was in an oasis. In the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, there were not many such oases. Only places with spiritual energy could produce such oases. Perhaps it was the pride of the Yi family's descendants. They did not choose to live in the city like others, but opened up another station. Although it was only a garrison, the array, formations, and defenses within it were better than those of ordinary cities. There were no clouds in the sky. Suddenly, the thin spirit chi and resentment in the sky suddenly gathered, forming a huge vortex in the sky above the encampment. Who is it? Almost at that moment, there was a loud roar coming from the Golden Jade Pavilion Station. Those were also experts. They almost felt the change in the resentment between heaven and earth in an instant. And at this moment, there was a flash of light in the sky, instantly covering the entire sky. The strong light made people unable to open their eyes at all. Clang! Then there was a huge sound of sword chi. A huge long sword fell from the sky. It was at least dozens of feet long, directly slashing down from the sky. Boom! There was a terrifying collision sound. The huge sword chi fell from the sky and fiercely slashed the sky above the station. In the sky above the station, dozens of enchantments were produced in an instant. The sword chi directly slashed on the enchantments, breaking dozens of enchantments in succession. However, it stopped on the innermost enchantment. It only cut a crack in it and could not continue to break the enchantment. Humph! With a cold snort, a terrifying attack directly bombarded from the enchantment, directly blasting the sword chi into pieces. Then, more than a dozen tyrannical experts jumped out. They were all experts at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm, and the hundreds of experts behind them all jumped out. As expected of the Golden Jade Pavilion Station in this law enforcement heavenly prison, it was definitely full of experts. Even if the remaining hundreds of experts were not at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm, they were at least at the 5th or 6th level of the law manifestation realm. At this time, because of this attack, all of them jumped out at once. Who dares to attack our Golden Jade Pavilion Station? Are you tired of living? The leading expert at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm shouted coldly as he looked around. And at this moment, a golden light flashed through the void, and a green figure appeared. Yishiwen, it's you? You didn't hide like a mouse and actually dared to appear in front of us. When the expert saw that it was Yishiwen, he suddenly felt a little strange. They never expected that Yishiwen would dare to appear in front of them at this time, when they were hunting Yishiwen everywhere. At this time, some people had already thought that Yi Jinzhong's departure might be a trap to lure the tiger away from the mountain. However, they didn't take it to heart. After all, even if it was a trap to lure the tiger away from the mountain, so what? They were a group of people. Even if Yi Jinzhong was not here, they didn't think that Yi Shiwen could do anything to them. Like a mouse? The one who has to hide like a mouse now is you guys. Yi Shiwen sneered. How arrogant! A master at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm roared and directly attacked Yi Shiwen. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of us just because you killed some people outside. He spread out his big hand and directly slammed down from the sky. It turned into a cage and grabbed at Yi Shiwen as if he wanted to grab him to death. Clang! A sharp sound broke through the air. The sword light flashed and directly cut the big hand in the air. Ah! The master at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm looked at Yi Shiwen in horror. He couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen was so tyrannical. Although there had been rumors about him, rumors were just rumors. Although he knew that Yi Shiwen had the combat power of the 8th level of the law manifestation realm, he didn't believe that Yi Shiwen could reach the level of invincibility in this realm. The rumor that he defeated an elder at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm in just a few moves was more like a myth. For him, this was simply impossible. However, in the instant that they truly clashed, he suddenly believed it. That was because that sword chi contained an aura that made people feel despair. If he hadn't retracted it in time, his hand would definitely have been severed by that sword. It was too terrifying. The other masters at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm also looked at Yi Shiwen with some surprise in their eyes. They were obviously shocked. At this time, Yi Shiwen didn't stop at all. He took a step forward, and his figure disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, he was already among those masters. He was completely unscrupulous. He didn't put these people in his eyes. He rushed into the crowd like a fierce tiger coming down the mountain. Swish! A sword light flashed, and a master at the 5th level of the law manifestation realm was directly cut in half. Blood instantly splashed out. Chapter 1246. Yi Shiwen's expression was indifferent. Although the people in front of him were the same clan, in his eyes, they were no different from thieves. These few months of hiding were inseparable from the Golden Jade Pavilion. Killing the same clan? Have they ever thought of this problem? In a place like the law enforcement heavenly prison, it was a lawless place. It was also the only place where the responsibility would not be clearly pursued. This was a chaotic place, but also a killing place. Swish! 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 A few more sword lights flashed, and some experts who had not reacted were directly slaughtered. If those experts at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm were still a threat to him, then these experts below the 8th level of the law manifestation realm were purely lambs waiting to be slaughtered for Yi Shiwen. Although the other party had many people, for Yi Shiwen, unless there was an army, the number of people wouldn't affect his killing. In particular, these people were fighting on their own. They didn't even have a formation, so they couldn't exert their strength to the greatest extent. Little thief, don't be arrogant. At this time, those experts at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm finally reacted, and they rushed towards Yi Shiwen. The attacks of more than a dozen tyrannical experts at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm were like a torrent, directly crushing down and instantly annihilating Yi Shiwen. Swish! 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 Yi Shiwen's hands didn't stop. Every sword light flashed, and a Golden Jade Pavilion expert was directly slaughtered by him. On his body, every pore was spewing sword aura, directly forming a huge sword aura above him. The sword aura soared straight into the sky, stirring up countless grievances around the sword aura to form a terrifying vortex. Clang! This gigantic sword chi shot out, and a terrifying sword chi that was hundreds of feet long came crashing down, shattering the void and heading towards the torrent of energy. Boom! The sword aura and the martial arts torrent collided fiercely, and a shocking collision occurred. The air was annihilated, and countless grievances were crushed into pieces. Circles of air waves swept out crazily. Wow! The sweeping force was like a wave, and layers of waves rushed out in all directions. Both sides were actually equally matched, neither gaining the upper hand. What? How is that possible? Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? He can actually block all of our attacks, by himself. That's impossible. There is no lack of experts at the peak of the 8th level of the Transcendence realm among us. Even those elders who have lived for thousands of years can't do this. These experts at the 8th level of the Transcendence realm were in disbelief. Their combined attack couldn't take down Yi Shiwen. His sword was actually on par with theirs. This was impossible. At this time, some people seem to have finally remembered that even the elders who had lived for thousands of years were defeated by Yi Shiwen in just a few moves. The doubts in their hearts rose even more. How could he be so strong? Logically speaking, this shouldn't be possible. A person's strength should have a limit. Not to mention that they weren't ordinary experts. All of them were former genius disciples. Even so, it was already very difficult for them to fight against 3 or 5 experts of the same realm. Even if they were seriously injured, it wouldn't be easy for them to fight. How could he be as monstrous as Yi Shiwen? How could he be as monstrous as Yi Shiwen was? However, in just a few seconds of hesitation, a large number of Golden Jade Pavilion experts were slaughtered by Yi Shiwen. Screams came one after another, as if it would never stop. He was like a killing machine with an indifferent expression. Wherever the sword light flashed, lives were reaped by him. And every time the golden light flashed, there would be a flower of blood. Golden Reaper. There was only such a thought in their hearts. This nickname was once called by others, but they didn't care. If Yi Shiwen was the Golden Reaper at that time, then what were they? Lord? Or Deity King? What a joke. But now, they felt that this nickname was too accurate. Only this nickname could describe the feeling that Yi Shiwen was giving them now. In just a short span of a few breaths, more than a dozen Law Phase Realm Masters died, tragically, in Yi Shiwen's hands. The 8th heaven of Law Phase Realm Masters watched with widened eyes. They were on the verge of crying blood. In fact, these were not ordinary people. The law enforcement hall itself was different from other institutions. It was extremely difficult to infiltrate the law enforcement hall. How long did it take for Golden Jade Pavilion to infiltrate the law enforcement hall? Moreover, these were the law enforcement hall. Those who could enter the law enforcement heavenly prison to cultivate were undoubtedly the elites of the elites. It could be said that if these people were all slaughtered by Yi Shiwen, the power of Golden Jade Pavilion in the law enforcement hall might not be completely annihilated, but in fact, it was almost the same. If these backbones died tragically, the remaining marginal pawns were meaningless. This Yi Shiwen was so ruthless. He was planning to uproot the power of Golden Jade Pavilion in the law enforcement hall. At this moment, the evaluation of Yi Shiwen in their hearts had become ruthless. Stop him! We must stop him! Some experts shouted. They could imagine how angry Prince Jean and Prince Yu would be if they suffered heavy losses due to Yi Shiwen's surprise attack. They couldn't imagine how angry Prince Jean and Prince Yu would be. Yi Shiwen would certainly bear the thunderous wrath of Golden Jade Pavilion, but they wouldn't be able to escape either. They might also be punished by the higher-ups of Golden Jade Pavilion. The kind of punishment made even them shudder. Many experts at the 8th heaven of Law Phase Realm reacted one after another and hurriedly pounced towards Yi Shiwen. Taking advantage of this time, Yi Shiwen's long sword reaped more than a dozen lives. Blood kept sliding down from the tip of the sword and dripping down from the sky. At this time, Yi Shiwen, who was expressionless, was indeed like an Azura that could bring death. No matter how those people screamed, Yi Shiwen's determination could not be shaken at all. The long sword in his hand waved mechanically and reaped lives. Stop! A law manifestation realm 8th level expert took the lead and rushed over, wanting to stop Yi Shiwen from slaughtering a law manifestation realm 7th level expert. However, just as he finished speaking, he only saw a flash of golden light. A long sword had unknowingly stabbed into his body. The sword light instantly crushed all the internal organs in his body into pieces. So fast. Before he died, this was the only thought left in his mind. He did not even see when Yi Shiwen attacked, but he already felt the long sword stabbing into his body. He could only feel himself becoming more and more powerless, and his vitality was fading rapidly. Yi Shiwen drew his sword and immediately pounced on the other expert at the 8th heaven of the Law Phase realm. At this time, all the Law Manifestation Realm 8th level experts had already rushed over, wanting to kill him in one fell swoop. But for Yi Shiwen, this made no difference. He rushed in like a tiger descending the mountain. One person, 10 people, no difference. Law Manifestation Realm 5th level. Law Manifestation Realm 8th level, no difference. All of them were dead. Swish, swish, swish. Blood splattered after every sword light. Soon, the experts at the 8th level of the Law Phase realm were horrified to discover something. They originally thought that they could stop Yi Shiwen with so many people, but they soon discovered that it was just their wishful thinking. Yi Shiwen could kill those experts below the Law Manifestation Realm 8th level with one sword, but they were not much better. It was just the difference between one sword, two sword, or three sword. We can't go on like this, or we will all be slaughtered by him. At this time, those Law Manifestation Realm 8th level experts finally understood why Yi Shiwen did not hide when he was being hunted. Instead, he left the law enforcement heavenly prison and actually dared to raid the encampment. He had nothing to fear. Without Yi Jianzhong, who was at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm, to him, their encampment was practically defenseless. To them now, Yi Shiwen was no different from an expert at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm. If an expert at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm could defeat them easily, Yi Shiwen could do it too. Yi Shiwen was even more ruthless. Yi Shiwen, aren't you afraid of being punished by the higher-ups? You dare to slaughter our Yi family's disciples, said a Law Manifestation Realm 8th level expert with a stern expression. The higher-ups' punishment? Ah, you're telling me this now. Why didn't you think about the higher-ups' punishment when you were chasing me? Yi Shiwen looked at this scene and sneered. None of you can leave today. He had already thought it through. The so-called higher-ups' punishment was *T. Only the living could appeal. Who would speak for the dead? Just like when he killed Jiagu Zhenghao, the matter was left unsettled in the end. Although the Jiagu clan might have other actions, at least they would not do anything to him on the surface. As he spoke, he had already taken a step forward and pounced in front of the Law Manifestation Realm 8th level expert. He suddenly slashed down with his sword. The Law Manifestation Realm 8th level expert tried his best to resist, but Yi Shiwen's sword technique was not only fast, but it was also as heavy as Mount Tai. Boom! The weapon in his hand was directly shattered by Yi Shiwen's sword. His body was badly mutilated as if it had been blown up. Yi Shiwen shattered his flesh and blood, and then his weapon was sent flying. Swish! Immediately after, another sword light flashed, and the Law Manifestation Realm 8th level expert was directly killed on the spot. He was like a killing machine. No matter who it was, there was no way to stop his advancement. Wherever the sword light pointed, blood flowed like a river. Chapter 1247. The news that Yi Shiwen destroyed the Golden Pavilion's encampment quickly spread throughout the entire law enforcement heavenly prison. For the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, it was equivalent to a big stone smashing into a calm lake. For a time, huge waves surged. The Golden Pavilion was definitely not the largest force in the law enforcement heavenly prison. However, Not many people dared to provoke the Golden Pavilion because there were two great gods behind the Golden Pavilion, Prince Jean and Prince Yu. Even if there were many young masters in the Yi family, Prince Jean and Prince Yu were also the best among them. Except for the legendary five tyrants, they could be ranked in the top group. Therefore, even those criminals rarely dared to offend the Golden Pavilion. It was fine if you killed a few people, but if you destroyed the entire encampment of the Golden Pavilion, then it would really be a fight to the death. They were planning to completely shed all pretense of cordiality. In their opinion, no matter how the Golden Pavilion hunted Yi Shiwen previously, it was not considered as shedding all pretense of cordiality. However, now that Yi Shiwen destroyed the encampment of the Golden Pavilion and killed more than half of the Golden Pavilion's forces in the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, it could be considered as a fight to the death with the Golden Pavilion. It was completely shedding all pretense of cordiality. However, for Yi Shiwen, from the moment they wanted to kill him, it was already shedding all pretense of cordiality. It was basically a fight to the death. It was impossible for Yi Shiwen to give up unless they gave up. However, there was the temptation of the 9 revolutions mysterious golden pill first, and then there was the matter of Yi Shiwen destroying their encampment. There was no room for reconciliation between the two sides. They could only fight to the death. Both sides were not ordinary people. They had their own pride. It was absolutely impossible for them to bow their heads and admit defeat. Although Yi Shiwen had a record of killing several masters at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm, and he had made a name for himself in the entire law enforcement heavenly prison, this was still beyond everyone's expectations. As soon as this matter spread, it immediately became the hottest topic of the current law enforcement heavenly prison. Especially after Yi Shiwen lured Yi Jinzhong away from the mountain, he destroyed the entire Golden Jade Pavilion. Except for a few Golden Jade Pavilion masters who went out for some business, the rest didn't run away. All of them were killed by Yi Shiwen. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. The entire Golden Jade Pavilion instantly became furious, especially Yi Jinzhong. Yi Shiwen had played him like a monkey. After luring him away from the mountain, Yi Shiwen had destroyed the entire station. Yi Shiwen had played him like a monkey. Yi Shiwen had lured the tiger away from the mountain and then destroyed the entire station. How could he not be furious? He was so angry that he was about to go crazy. The order to encircle and annihilate Yi Shiwen was issued by him. However, the result was like this. Hundreds of experts were suddenly defeated by Yi Shiwen. They suffered heavy losses, and their vitality was greatly damaged. He was one of the people in charge of the Golden Jade Pavilion in the law enforcement hall. He was also one of the high-level infiltrated by the Golden Jade Pavilion. After such a thing happened, he couldn't escape the blame, especially when he was fooled by Yi Shiwen. He absolutely couldn't swallow this anger. The Golden Jade Pavilion immediately issued a pursuit order. It was not like the original situation where they only hunted Yi Shiwen in private. Now they even defined Yi Shiwen as a traitor and asked other Yi family forces to join forces to hunt Yi Shiwen. But for this order, other Yi family forces were very calm. Whether they were neutral or also hunting Yi Shiwen, they didn't express their stance. What a joke. Everyone knew that they were the ones who started to hunt Yi Shiwen first, but they didn't make it public. In other words, this could only happen in the law enforcement heavenly prison, which was a place of chaos, killings, and no order. If it was outside, their behavior was enough to make the higher-ups angry. As long as Yi Shiwen got a hold of their weakness, it would be enough to make the higher-ups angry and obliterate them all. Yi family had been able to stand on the ancient Baron's continent for so many years because of unity. No matter who it was, at least they had to support the overall harmony of the Yi family. By doing this, they were openly destroying the foundation of the Yi family's foothold. If it caused panic and everyone was divided, they would be sinners for all eternity. Therefore, for many years, no matter how big the fuss was, it was at most in private. In the case of no evidence and no evidence, they would casually make a fuss. This was also the tacit understanding that the major forces of the Yi family maintained. Today, they dared to eliminate Yi Shiwen openly because they were strong while Yi Shiwen was weak. However, there were always existences in the Yi family that were stronger than them. If they didn't follow the rules and acted recklessly, then they might be dead on the streets tomorrow. In other words, only a person like Yi Shiwen who had nothing was not afraid of wearing shoes. Because he had nothing, he wasn't afraid of losing anything. And the people who had a lot of things were the ones who hoped for the existence of order the most. Even the worst order was much better than no order at all. The decision made by the Golden Jade Pavilion in a fit of rage was tantamount to handing over their weakness to Yi Shiwen. They would not do such a stupid thing in private, but once they shed all pretense of cordiality and put it on the table, everything would be different. In private, the high level might turn a blind eye. But once it was put on the table, even if the high level had different ideas, they had to maintain the supreme dignity of the Yi family's laws. This was the foundation of the Yi family, and no one could destroy it. However, although there was no change on the surface, they still stepped up their actions in private because the Golden Jade Pavilion's encampment was destroyed, which made them feel sad. Yi Shiwen, a guy who didn't play by common sense, was equivalent to a rule breaker. He simply ignored the rules that they had always regarded as unspoken rules. In their opinion, it was normal for them to encircle and intercept anyone, and as long as that person continued to flee, even if they were not caught in the end, it would not be considered as breaking the rules. But now, Yi Shiwen's actions were tantamount to breaking the rules. It was a bad start. If everyone followed in the future, then wouldn't they also be in danger? Their encampment might also be destroyed. Although from the news they received, Yi Shiwen was simply inhuman. Those masters at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm were not his opponents at all, and others should not be able to reach his level, but they still had to guard against him. There were so many monstrous geniuses in this world. Who knew if there would suddenly be such a rule breaker, so such a person should go to hell? Yi Shiwen was very clear about the thoughts of these people. However, he just snorted disdainfully at their thoughts. The thoughts of these people represented that they were already cowardly, corrupted, and had lost the determination and perseverance to face everything. Whether to abide by the rules or not, it depends on my mood. You have already pointed at my nose to hit me, and you still want me to abide by the rules not to hit your face? F***CK your sister. If you don't hit my face, then I will hit your face. Since we have fallen out, there is no need to be polite. I will hit your most painful place until you dare not look directly at me. Years of experience told him that these people were cheap. It was useless to talk to them nicely. He could only hit them ruthlessly until they did not dare to compete with him anymore. Only when you have strength that is comparable to them will they look at you seriously and not dare to underestimate you. Yi Jinzhong, who was angry, had turned into an angry killing god. He wanted to find Yi Shiwen even if he had to turn the entire law enforcement heavenly prison upside down. He vowed to tear Yi Shiwen into pieces so that the hatred in his heart could be eliminated. At the same time, he also understood that Yi Shiwen was the biggest dark cloud that shrouded the Golden Jade Pavilion. The majesty and image that the Golden Jade Pavilion had created in the law enforcement heavenly prison for many years had vanished with the destruction of the station. Geniuses could be won over and recruited again, but if their prestige was gone, it would take a long time to rebuild it. And there was only one way to eliminate this bad influence in a short period of time, and that was to get rid of Yi Shiwen directly, so that any negative influence would vanish like smoke in thin air. It turned out that after the station was destroyed, the majesty of the Golden Jade Pavilion had fallen by more than one level. The people who had been constantly providing news to the Golden Jade Pavilion also began to observe at this time. Although the Golden Jade Pavilion still had Yi Jinzhong stationed and was still very tyrannical, Yi Shiwen should not be underestimated. The elimination of a master at the 8th level of law enforcement, heavenly prison like cutting melons and vegetables gave them a great shock. Many people secretly speculated that the champion of the tournament outside was simply incredible. His future was simply boundless. Although Prince Jean and Prince Yu were very powerful, they were not from the law enforcement hall after all. It was impossible for them to enter the law enforcement heavenly prison in the future. Although Yi Jinzhong was powerful, he was at most a 9th level of law enforcement heavenly prison. If there was no fortuitous encounter in the future, it would be the end for him. However, Yi Shiwen was different. He had just started cultivating. It was said that he was only a few hundred years old. It was impossible to predict how far he could cultivate in the future. He might not have the ability to deal with them now, but there were still thousands of years in the future. He definitely had the opportunity to grow to the level of a behemoth that people looked up to. At that time, it would be absolutely effortless to crush them. And now, even if Yi Jinzhong was angry, he could not really do anything to them. However, Yi Shiwen's threat was real, unless someone could say that they could kill him. However, after seeing Yi Shiwen's ferocity and tyrannical strength, how many people dared to say so? Yi Jinzhong might be able to suppress him, but the premise was that he could also find him. In this case, many people who originally provided information to the Golden Jade Pavilion, the network and relationships that Yi Jinzhong had accumulated over the years suddenly became full of mistakes. Chapter 1248. Originally, after many years of construction of the Golden Jade Pavilion and management of Yi Jinzhong, the intelligence network of the Golden Jade Pavilion in the law enforcement Heavenly Prison could be said to be pervasive. Some time ago, they chased Yi Shiwen to the ends of the earth. This was the best evidence. No matter where he went, no matter how remote, he would soon be known by the Golden Jade Pavilion. Not only the Golden Jade Pavilion, but also other forces. They had been rooted in the law enforcement Heavenly Prison for hundreds of years, thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. The development of the forces inside had reached an unimaginable level. Yi Shiwen was like playing a game of cat and mouse. He was the mouse, covering his head and running away. There was no place for him to stop. If it was an ordinary person, he would have already left the law enforcement Heavenly Prison at this time. However, Yi Shiwen had a stubborn temper. He insisted on staying and going against them. However, the effect of picking a station was very obvious. Many people were obviously frightened. Although the Golden Jade Pavilion was still roaring in exasperation, more people had begun to think in a long-term direction. Yi Shiwen's tenacity was obviously beyond their imagination. Many of them might not be afraid of Yi Shiwen now, but what about in the long run? Especially those criminals. Although they were arrogant and domineering, and some even dared to ambush the Yi clan's children. In fact, they were a group of slaves. A group of slaves used for the Yi clan's children to gain experience. They really had no human rights. Even if they were the big shots of the celestial realm, once the Yi clan was unhappy, they could easily kill a group of them. If Yi Shiwen went out alive and entered the celestial realm one day, he would return to the law enforcement Heavenly Prison and kill all of them. The Yi clan would not say a word about him. Maybe they would even give him a lot of contribution points, which could be counted as merits. Thinking of this, these people suddenly stopped. The Golden Jade Pavilion still had the two great gods, Prince Jin and Prince Yu. They also had direct access to the Yi clan's higher-ups. No matter how arrogant they were, there would be people backing them up. They did not have such good conditions. Since they wanted to make trouble, let them make trouble. As for the 9 revolutions, Taishin Golden Pill, although it was good, it had to be enjoyed. After Yi Shiwen picked the station of the Golden Jade Pavilion, he directly shocked most people and relieved a lot of pressure on him. At this time, in addition to the Golden Jade Pavilion biting him like a mad dog, only some small organizations of the Yi clan were still secretly attacking him. However, at this time, only the Golden Jade Pavilion dared to go against Yi Shiwen. They were also forced by Yi Shiwen. Their station was picked. They had lost their power in the law enforcement Heavenly Prison. There was nothing more to say. Otherwise, they would have to come secretly. As for the high-level questioning, it was more important to get rid of Yi Shiwen first. As long as Yi Shiwen was dead, everything would be easily solved. Who would say anything for a dead man? As for the higher-ups questioning, the Yi of Yi Heavenly Jade Pavilion, he was Yi Shiwen. While Yi Jinzhong was still frantically searching for Yi Shiwen, Yi Shiwen had quietly returned to the city that Yi Qianhe was guarding. In this law enforcement Heavenly Prison, Yi Qianhe was the only one that Yi Shiwen could trust. Yi Shiwen had a very good impression of this loyal and devoted man of Yi family. This was also the only place where he could stay. If it was any other place, even if most of the Golden Jade Pavilion's intelligence network was destroyed, he would still be able to find him after a long time. You really destroyed their encampment. When she saw Yi Shiwen again, even though she was already mentally prepared, but when she really heard that Yi Shiwen had really destroyed the Golden Jade Pavilion Station, she was still so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. He always felt that he was very courageous. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to apply to guard the law enforcement prison. However, compared with Yi Shiwen, he seemed to be a little insignificant. Compared with Yi Shiwen's valiant battle record, he was indeed nothing. This was the champion of the competition. How could a person who could win the championship of the competition with the cultivation of the fourth sky of the law manifestation realm be ordinary? He was so tyrannical that no one had ever heard of in history. Indeed, he was not an ordinary person. He dared to do things that others didn't even dare to think about. It's impolite not to reciprocate. During this time, I was chased by them like a stray dog. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes, revealing a murderous intention without concealment. At this time, in Yi Qian's view, Yi Shiwen was a dangerous beast. Whoever dared to come close would be torn apart and devoured by him. But you destroyed the Golden Jade Pavilion. Yi Jianzhong will not let it go, Yi Qian said with some worry. At this time, he was completely standing on Yi Shiwen's side. This matter was obviously caused by the people of the Golden Jade Pavilion. I'm not strong enough now. Otherwise, that old guy won't be able to escape. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and revealed a murderous intention. You can't think like this. Yi Jianzhong is different from others. He is a person with a position in the law enforcement hall. He is different from those idle people. If something happens, even the higher-ups of the law enforcement hall will be shocked. Yi Qian said quickly, "Don't worry. If I really want to kill that old guy, I have a way to do it unknowingly. Even if they know that I did it, do they have evidence?" Yi Shiwen sneered. If he really killed Yi Jianzhong, he could not wait to let the Golden Jade Pavilion know. If the Golden Jade Pavilion did not know that he did it, it would be boring. As for the likes of Prince Jean and Prince Yu, sooner or later, they would have to face each other. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, it did not matter. Yi Qian sighed and looked at Yi Shiwen. Suddenly, he felt that it was not without reason that Yi Shiwen could achieve what he had today. If it were an ordinary person, who would dare to think like this, let alone dare to do it? Anyway, Prince Jean and Prince Yu are still a very big threat. Even among the younger generation, I have never heard of Prince Jean and Prince Yu losing to anyone except the five tyrants. Either one of them can form a small organization and run amok. But now that they have joined hands to form the Golden Jade Pavilion, their power is even greater. Ordinary people are not willing to provoke them. Yi Qian said, "It would be best if the grievances between you can be resolved. You are all geniuses of the Yi family. No matter who is lost, it will only benefit the outsiders." He was still the loyal Yi Qian. In his opinion, the Yi family was the most important. He could let go of everything else, no matter what kind of grievances. If possible, I don't want to cause trouble everywhere. But since they dare to covet my 9 revolutions mysterious golden pill, they must be prepared to use their blood to irrigate it. Yi Shiwen said seriously, "As for reconciliation, do you think there is any room for reconciliation between us? If they want to swallow me, I will make them lose all their teeth." Yi Shiwen was naturally prepared to have a full-scale conflict with Prince Jean and Prince Yu when he went out. The law enforcement heavenly prison was protected by the law enforcement hall. Prince Jean and Prince Yu were not members of the law enforcement hall, so they could not come in. At most, they could only play tricks in the dark. But once he went out, the conflict could not be concealed, and it might directly erupt. Although there were still the higher-ups of the Yi family watching outside, everything was hard to say. He had to be fully prepared. Although he didn't want to cause trouble, since trouble was already on him, he had to be ready to fight with all his strength. Even in the worst-case scenario, he had already planned to escape from the Yi family and wander around. Yi Qian did not continue to persuade him. He could see that Yi Shiwen's character was absolutely the kind of person who would rather break than bend. He was not a person who would lower his head and compromise. Instead of asking him to lower his head and compromise, It would be more realistic to ask Prince Jean and Prince Yu of the Golden Jade Pavilion to put down their dignity and not pursue the matter. But was this possible? Obviously not. Therefore, the conflict between the two sides was almost impossible to resolve unless the higher-ups forcefully suppressed it. Let's not talk about this first. Anyway, thank you for your help during this period of time. Otherwise, I would not even have a place to stay, Yi Shiwen said with a smile. Yi Qinna hastily waved his hand and casually said, "It's nothing. I just can't stand the arrogance of those people from the Golden Jade Pavilion." Yi Shiwen did not say much. Although Yi Qinna said it lightly, he knew that covering up for him was also a big risk. It might offend the Golden Jade Pavilion and other forces. At that time, he might face their revenge. Yi Shiwen remembered all these in his heart, but he did not say it out loud. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and said, "Help me arrange a place. I want to do closed-door training. When I break through to the 6th level of the Law Phase realm, I will teach that old guy Yi Jinzhong a lesson." Yi Shiwen had already entered the peak of the 5th level of the Law Phase realm. He was only one step away from the 6th level of the Law Phase realm. At that time, he would truly have the strength to fight against the masters of the 9th level of the Law Phase realm. At that time, the situation would be completely different. That was the strength that could be called the best in the Law Phase realm. He now finally understood why such a terrible environment like the law enforcement heavenly prison could become the cultivation, holy land of the law enforcement hall. The reason was none other than the harsh living environment. In this kind of living environment, everyone would squeeze their potential to the highest level. Everything was just for survival. He had only been here for half a year, and he had been forced to squeeze out the potential in his body. His cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Okay, no problem. Yi Qinna was very surprised. He remembered that Yi Shiwen had just broken through not long ago. How long had it been? And he was about to break through again. It was really infuriating to compare oneself with others. However, when Yi Qinna was about to go out and arrange a place for Yi Shiwen, he heard a slightly cold and old voice. "Wait!" Chapter 1249. Wait! A figure directly descended from the sky and swept in. When the two of them looked over, they saw a middle-aged man who was about 40 years old. He had a resolute face, and his eyes were incomparably deep. His every move seemed to faintly merge with the world. If one closed their eyes, they might not even be able to discover his existence at all. Celestial Realm Master. Yi Shiwen reacted almost immediately. He had felt this kind of aura from the Yi Clan Master and other Celestial Realm Masters. But immediately, he reacted. This couldn't be a Celestial Realm Master, because the Celestial Realm Master's aura was stronger and more terrifying than this. There was only one possibility, a half-step Celestial Realm Master. However, whether it was Celestial Realm or half-step Celestial Realm, there was no difference for him, because it was not a master that he could fight against. Although half-step Celestial Realm had not yet entered the Celestial Realm, after all, it was already Celestial Realm. If the Law Manifestation Master gave people the feeling that he was incompatible with this world, then the characteristic of Celestial Realm Master was that he seemed to be integrated with this world. This was the so-called unity of heaven and man. He was secretly vigilant in his heart, but his vigilance was immediately discovered by the middle-aged man. He just looked at Yi Shiwen with some amusement and said, "You are vigilant, but it's also true. If you are not vigilant with your living environment, you will be swallowed up." When Yi Shiwen heard this, he suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he was not coming for him, but the dangerous aura of the other party almost made him have a feeling of spreading the demon's wings to escape on the spot. "Recently, you have made a lot of noise in the law enforcement heavenly prison. Even we, who are outside, have heard that you have destroyed the base of those people from the Golden Jade Pavilion." The middle-aged man looked at Yi Shiwen and said, "If people don't offend me, I don't offend them. Since those people are plotting my things, then they are courting death." Yi Shiwen said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "If people don't offend me, I don't offend them, but you are indeed a bit arrogant." A smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. Although he had said that Yi Shiwen was a bit rampant, but looking at his appearance, it didn't seem to be a derogatory term. In his opinion, this rampant might also be a compliment. But you don't have to be nervous. Since you're in the heavenly law enforcement prison, we won't interfere too much. So, what if you guys turn the heavens upside down? The middle-aged man was extremely confident, as if everything was under his control. That leisurely and confident attitude showed that no matter how much trouble they caused, they would never be able to get out of Buddha Tathagata's Five-Finger Mountain, just like the monkey son. Yi Shiwen exhaled slightly. Sure enough, the law enforcement heavenly prison was a lawless place. There were no laws and no rules. There was only killing. If there were rules, then there was only one. Whoever had the biggest fist would be the king. In the enforcer heavenly prison, no matter how ruthless the killing was, it would not affect anything outside. In other words, if he was killed, the middle-aged man should have the same attitude. Are you Elder Yi Jinshan? At this time, Yi Qianhe suddenly recognized the identity of the man. Little guy, it's rare that you can recognize me. I've been in the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison all year round. I haven't shown my face for a long time. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Qianhe in surprise. Originally, his eyes were only on Yi Shiwen, the person who had caused a big trouble. Now he had a whole new level of respect for Yi Qianhe. I've seen your portrait, and I've heard of your stories. Yi Qianhe lowered his posture. This was something he had never seen before. Obviously, he was very respectful to Yi Jinshan. That's rare, Yi Jinshan said with a smile. His eyes turned to Yi Shiwen. I've also heard about the 9 revolutions Taishan golden pill. You have to be careful. There are many people who covet the 9 revolutions Taishan golden pill. Although it's a worldly possession after all, there are still some people who can't accept it and insist on doing so. They don't know that they have already fallen into a disadvantageous position and let their inner demons enter their bodies. Yi Shiwen nodded. He could see that this was Yi Jinshan's kind reminder. May I know why you've come this time? Yi Shiwen didn't think that Yi Jinshan had come out just to stop him from doing closed-door training. Do you know Yi Shui? Yi Jinshan didn't answer, but asked instead. Yes. Yi Shiwen nodded. He hadn't seen Yi Shui for a long time. It had been almost half a year. He only knew that Yi Shui was in closed-door training. He also heard that he had entered the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison. However, Yi Shiwen hadn't heard any news about him after such a long time. He thought that he was in closed-door training, so he didn't pay much attention to him. Then I have bad news for you. Yi Shui has been taken away. Yi Jinshan said. What? How is that possible? Yi Shiwen said in surprise. What's going on? Who dares to capture the children of our Yi family in the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison? Yi Qianhe asked. It's those rebels, Yi Jinshan said. Those rebels? Yi Qianhe's face showed a look of understanding. Rebels? May I ask who these people are? Yi Shiwen asked. He hadn't been here for long. Plus, he had been in a state of being chased for half a year. Most of the time, he didn't have the time to understand many secrets. They are rebels who are trying to overthrow the rule of the Yi family. Yi Qianhe was startled and said. At this time, Yi Shiwen finally learned who these rebels were from Yi Qianhe. These people were extremely hostile to the Yi family. They had been trying to overthrow the rule of the Yi family for countless years. They were the most wanted criminals that the Yi family was after. Yi Xiao, Haishiba Gui, the old housekeeper, and others were also on the wanted list of the Yi family. However, the Yi family had let them go. These people were actually a kind of training for the children of the Yi family. Only by going through all kinds of training could the children of the Yi family grow quickly. Only then could the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison, a holy land of cultivation, truly manifest its significance. It was the existence of these people that turned the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison from a vile place of exile to a holy land of cultivation. However, there were some people who were different. They were the so-called rebels. These people didn't often rob the children of the Yi family, like Yi Xiao and others. However, they were plotting to overthrow the rule of the Yi family. They wanted to overthrow the rule of the Yi family in the heavenly law enforcement heavenly prison. Every rebellion would cause a lot of losses to the Yi family. Therefore, the Yi family would strongly pursue these people. They would directly suppress any trace of them. They didn't give them any chance to grow. However, these rebels were like a cancer parasitic on the heavenly law enforcement, heavenly prison. There was no way to clean them up. No matter how large the cleanup operation was, they would quickly revive. Because their members were extremely hostile to the Yi family. These people were everywhere in the heavenly law enforcement, heavenly prison. They were captured and brought here to suffer because of the Yi family. Not only were their freedom restricted, but their cultivation was also difficult to advance. In such a vile place, it was very difficult for them to practice even if they wanted to. Therefore, their cultivation had always been under the control of the Yi family. They had become slaves to experience for a long time. The resentment in their hearts could be imagined. However, not everyone was as extreme as those rebels. However, as long as those rebels wanted to, they could easily recruit a large number of members and revive. They were like weeds that could not be cut off, and there was no end to them. Did Yi Shui fall into their hands? Asked Yi Shiwen. Yes, it's not just Yi Shui. In fact, recently, there are also some geniuses of the younger generation who are in their target range, including you. Why do you think that no matter where you go these days, people are constantly chasing after you? In fact, those people are among those who are chasing you. Yi Jianshan glanced at Yi Shiwen faintly and said. Yi Shiwen frowned. He didn't expect this. Originally, he thought that it was the local forces of the heavenly law enforcement, heavenly prison, and the small organizations of the Yi family's experts. He didn't expect that there were rebels among them. If he became the target of those rebels, then this matter would be big. Why are they targeting us? Asked Yi Shiwen. According to the information we received, they want to hypnotize you, control your mind, and then infiltrate into our Yi family, so as to lay the foundation for their rebellion, said Yi Jinshan. In particular, you are all rare geniuses in the Yi family. Any one of you will be trained by the Yi family at a great cost. Once the rebellion is launched, not only will all the previous training of the family be in vain, but it will also cause heavy losses. Yi Shiwen nodded. He could imagine how terrifying it would be if these rebels succeeded. Once these geniuses were to be mobilized, they would become celestial realm experts who would start a rebellion in the future. Needless to say, one could imagine how much destructive power a celestial realm expert could have. There's nothing I can do. Yi Shiwen didn't refuse and said directly. Yi Shui had helped him several times before. Yi Shiwen remembered this favor in his heart. His country had never perished. Now was the time for him to do something. We plan to launch an encirclement and annihilation of their base, said Yi Jinshan. And I want you to pretend to be one of their members and sneak in first. When we launch an attack from the outside, you will attack from the inside. Find those captured geniuses and rescue them if you can. If you can't do it, or they have been hypnotized, kill them on the spot. Yi Jinshan's tone was cold and ruthless. Chapter 1250. Yi Jinshan's words were cold and ruthless. If they were controlled, there would only be one outcome. They would be killed on the spot. The Yi family would not let these people live and continue to cultivate in the Yi family. Yi Shiwen's expression became serious. He already knew the meaning of this. If he was caught, the Yi family would be the same. However, sneaking in and waiting for the outside to attack was a very dangerous thing in itself. It could be said that this was a mission with a slim chance of survival. We caught 2 of their members, so you can temporarily disguise as one of them and sneak in, Yi Jinshan said. Of course, this is a mission with a slim chance of survival, so we will not force you to go. After all, you are also a genius of our law enforcement hall. Losing even one of you is a great loss. If you don't go, we can let others go. But no matter what, both of you must listen to my orders. Even if you don't go in as a spy, you must follow me to break that base. Yi Jinshan's tone was very tough, and there was no room for refusal. Not only Yi Shiwen, but Yi Qianhe would also be recruited. Then Yi Jinshan added, this operation is related to the rebellion, so all Yi family members above the 7th sky of Law Fei's realm must listen to the recruitment. No one can refuse. Yi Shiwen thought about this matter. If he followed Yi Jianshan to fight outside, it would undoubtedly be the safest. In the worst case, he could spread his devil's wings and escape. He believed that no one could stop him. Of course, the risk was very small, but the reward would not be much. With so many people together, he would definitely not be the most eye-catching one. If he went undercover, it would be very dangerous. He could die at any time. In that base, he could not get any support. He could die at any time, but in contrast, the reward would be very big. After this mission, the law enforcement hall would also reward him according to his merits. I am willing to go undercover. Yi Shiwen thought about it and said, "Good. Worthy of being a good man of our Yi family." Yi Jianshan was delighted when he saw Yi Shiwen readily agree. Our law enforcement hall won't treat you unfairly after this matter is over. We will reward you with 2 desolate blood divine fruits if this matter is over. But we will reward you with 1 desolate blood divine fruit even if this matter fails. Yi Qianhe, who was watching from the side, was also a little stunned. He did not expect the law enforcement hall to be willing to reward them with a desolate blood sacred fruit. Although the desolate blood sacred fruit was a specialty of the law enforcement hall, even the law enforcement hall didn't have many of them. That was because the desolate blood sacred fruit didn't have any specific pattern to its production. It was often the battlefield where countless skeletal beasts fought. They had a special secret method to grow it. No matter how many skeletal beasts humans killed, they couldn't grow it. In addition, those boned beast commanders were often very guarded against human warriors. These battlefields were often not known by people, so even the law enforcement hall did not have many. Rewarding 1 desolate blood sacred fruit was already a lot, let alone 2. Even for a sky human stage expert, the sacred desolate blood fruit was still a rare natural treasure. At this time, Yi Jianshan looked at Yi Qianhe as if asking for his opinion. How dare I disobey? Yi Qianhe cupped his hands and said, "All right, then you 2 come with me. We'll go and meet up. This time, we must get rid of those rebels in one go." Yi Jianshan said unquestionably. This time, the Yi family's experts were all gathered in a valley. Less than 10,000 li away from this valley was the rebels' base. Although it was thousands of miles away, for everyone, if they wanted to attack, it would be a matter of minutes. It was not too far away. At the same time, they would not be discovered because they were too close. This was just the right distance. When Yi Shiwen and the other 2 arrived, there were already thousands of masters gathered in the entire valley. All of them were masters above the 7th level of the Transcendence Realm. Although Yi Jianshan was the only master above the half-step celestial realm, this lineup could be said to be extremely luxurious. Almost all the top experts of the law manifestation realm of the Yi clan in the law enforcement heavenly prison were captured in one go. It could be said that the elites had gathered. No matter how many experts there were in the rebel base, it would be difficult for them to escape the complete suppression of these terrifying experts. It was like a storm sweeping down on them, and among them, Yi Shiwen also felt a considerable number of unfriendly gazes. They were all from those who participated in the pursuit of Yi Shiwen. At this time, seeing Yi Shiwen, it could be said that they were extremely angry when they saw their enemies. And among them, the first to bear the brunt was none other than Yi Jianzhong. This old guy's gaze almost seemed to tear Yi Shiwen apart. Compared to others, he and Yi Jianzhong truly had a bitter hatred. Yi Shiwen had destroyed the base of the Golden Jade Pavilion, making him a laughingstock. It was a shame that could not be washed away. Only by killing Yi Shiwen could it be possible to quell the criticism and shame this time. Little bastard, how dare you appear in front of me? Yi Jianzhong stared coldly at Yi Shiwen, and beside him, the remaining experts of the Golden Jade Pavilion also looked at Yi Shiwen with unfriendly gazes. Old bastard, you're still not dead from anger? Yi Shiwen also said without any trace of politeness. He also wanted to kill this old guy. If he had the strength to do so, he wouldn't hesitate to kill Yi Jianzhong. He wouldn't give him any chance to escape. After so many years of experience, he absolutely could not be soft-hearted. You're courting death. Yi Jianzhong was instantly furious. Just as he was about to attack Yi Shiwen, he saw a cold gaze from Yi Jianshan. Immediately, He could only suppress the killing intent in his heart and stared coldly at Yi Shiwen. In his heart, there was also a bit of fear because they were all summoned by the message talisman, but only Yi Shiwen was personally summoned by Yi Jianshan. This difference in treatment was enough to let his imagination run wild. Because in the end, Yi Shiwen was the true people of the law enforcement hall. Although Prince Jean and Prince Yu were powerful, and extremely talented, they were not people of the law enforcement hall after all. Needless to say, the bias of the higher-ups of the law enforcement hall was obvious. It was still okay in the law enforcement heavenly prison, but once he got out, he would never have the chance to attack Yi Shiwen again. Because once he attacked, he would definitely face a thunderous attack from the higher-ups. One was a person who only cultivated to the ninth heaven of the law manifestation realm for thousands of years, and the other was a future star who had the qualifications to enter the celestial being realm in the future and had a promising future. It was almost needless to say how the higher-ups would choose. Therefore, he could not wait to find Yi Shiwen. Even if it caused an uproar and everyone knew about it, he did not care, because he knew that there were not many opportunities. Now, everything must be based on the extermination of this rebellion. I don't care what kind of grievances you have. At this time, you must let it go, or don't blame me for personally suppressing you. Yi Jianshan said coldly, glancing at the two separately. But in the eyes of the people of the Golden Jade Pavilion, the meaning of this bias towards Yi Shiwen was already very obvious. Their faces were full of dissatisfaction. So many of their people were dead and injured. Did they not even have the right to roar? But who was Yi Jianshan? He was the only master of the half-step celestial being realm present. He never considered who to explain to when he did things, and these people were not qualified. Yes, Yi Shiwen said and cupped his hands. Yi Jianshan nodded with satisfaction. This time, many of our disciples have been captured by them. These rebels actually want to control these Yi clan disciples and enter our Yi clan. It is really wishful thinking. These people should have been sent to the afterlife long ago. Now is the right time for us to send them to the afterlife. Yi Jianshan looked at the crowd and said, "Kill these lowly sinners. It is best to kill all of them. They should not have been given any chance at all." These masters of the Yi clan had already known the content of this mission from the previous notice. At this time, they were also bursting with righteous indignation. These people were the hawks in the Yi clan. They advocated that all enemies should be treated with toughness, not leaving any chance for them. And this time, before the operation, we will send 2 people to infiltrate as undercover agents to cooperate with us. Yi Jianshan glanced at the crowd and said. At this time, everyone began to look for who was so unlucky. There was no need to think about this mission. It was definitely a mission with a 9 out of 10 chance of survival. If they wanted to break into this stronghold, with such a huge force of the Yi clan, they could definitely crush all the enemies easily. But this was from the outside. If they wanted to go undercover, it would really be a 9 out of 10 chance of survival. It could even be said that there was no chance of survival. It was purely a job to send themselves to death. Who was so unlucky? But soon, the 2 unlucky people had already come forward. It was Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe. This time, Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe will go undercover as pioneers, waiting for an opportunity to rescue the Yi clan's disciples who have been captured. Yi Jianshan said, "Of course, we will not mistreat them. Regardless of success or failure, they will be rewarded with desolate blood divine fruits." Desolate blood divine fruits. Everyone was a little shocked, but then they calmed down. Desolate blood divine fruits were good, but one must be alive to enjoy them. In particular, Yi Jinzhong and the people of the Golden Jade Pavilion looked at Yi Shiwen as if they were looking at 2 dead people. It seemed as if they were looking at 2 dead people. After this matter is settled, I will report everyone's merits. When that time comes, there will be no lack of benefits for everyone. Yi Jinzhong glanced at the crowd and said, "These people belong to many small groups and organizations. At this time, it was necessary to unite them and use them as a rope." "Yes," everyone replied one after another. Chapter 1251. On a barren land, two figures were flying in the air. In the distance, there was an endless mountain range. Just like the other mountain ranges, it was barren and lifeless. It was like a dead land surrounded by death. Among the two, one looked like a yellow-skinned young man, and the other was a tall, middle-aged man. Yi Shiwen, when we go in, we must be careful. At this time, the tall, middle-aged man said. This person was none other than Yi Qianhe in disguise. The other yellow-skinned young man was Yi Shiwen. Compared to Yi Qianhe's disguise, Yi Shiwen's disguise was obviously better. The pattern of a sinner on his forehead was faintly discernible, as if he was a real sinner. Well, when the time comes, just follow me, Yi Shiwen said. Right now, he was a real leader, a leader who could lead a group of heroes. It had only been a moment since they came out, and they had already arrived less than 1,000 miles away from this station. For them, who were rushing at full speed, this was not too much of a distance. Originally, it would be safer to send a master at the 9th level of the law manifestation realm to go undercover. Unless they encountered a master half a step into the celestial realm, they could always escape unscathed. However, the two traitors caught by Yi Jinshan were at the 8th level of the law manifestation realm. In order to make it more realistic, they asked Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe to go together. Who is it? Stop. At this time, more than a dozen figures appeared in the sky. They were all masters at the 7th and 8th level of the law manifestation realm. They seemed to be on guard in this area. Even a person who had just approached was discovered. These people faintly formed a battle array and surrounded the two of them. Yi Shiwen calmly took out an ID tag from his waist and showed it in front of them. I am Huang Jiwei. I just finished a mission. This is my partner, Ma Tian. Yi Shiwen said. A master at the 8th level of the law phase realm flew down and looked at the waist tag that Yi Shiwen took out. After confirming that there was no mistake, he exchanged a few secret signals with Yi Shiwen and then sent a message talisman into the mountain. Obviously, he was confirming Yi Shiwen's identity, but soon he got a reply. It should be confirmed that these two people were indeed there, so his face toward Yi Shiwen immediately became a little kinder. Yi Qianhe's body was tense at this time. He was so nervous that he was about to die. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen had a relaxed look on his face. Little did he know that Yi Shiwen was thinking that if he was exposed, he would kill all these people and leave calmly. He didn't have Yi Shiwen's strength, so it was naturally impossible for him to have such a relaxed mentality. The more relaxed they were, the less suspicious they would be. In their opinion, it was time to relax after returning home. The master at the 8th level of the law phase realm regarded Yi Shiwen as one of his own. He approached and asked, You guys have worked hard. Did you catch a disciple of the Yi family in this mission? I didn't catch him. That disciple of the Yi family was too violent. In the end, I got angry and killed him directly. I don't know how I will be punished by the higher-ups when I go back. Yi Shiwen's face showed a bit of distress, as if it was real. Before Yi Shiwen came, he had already read Huang Jiwei's memory through magical power. Huang Jiwei and Ma Tianwen's mission was to capture a genius of the Yi family. In the end, because the disciple of the Yi family was too violent, Huang Jiwei killed him directly on a whim. The only difference was that the two of them were captured by the disciples of the Yi family who arrived later. Now they were completely prisoners, falling into the hands of the disciples of the Yi family. It didn't matter if he was willing or not, because there were ways to read his memory directly if he was unwilling. It was just that doing so would hurt his brain. But would the people of the Yi family care if these people's brains were hurt? Of course not. After Yi Jinshan personally destroyed the barrier in their minds, there were naturally no secrets. It's nothing. So what if many of the Yi family's disciples died? We've caught countless of them over the years. I've killed at least 10 so-called geniuses of the Yi family. So what? The master of the 8th level of the law manifestation realm said indifferently, If you are unhappy, you can kill one of them. At the side, Yi Qianhe lowered his head so that no one could see his eyes. At this moment, his eyes revealed an ominous glint, and he wished for nothing more than to kill these people. However, he also knew that this was not a good time. As the saying went, a little impatience would spoil a great plan. Yi Shiwen sneered in his heart, but he said, "That's right. I don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. Those disciples of the Yi family treat us as slaves to gain experience. They come in wave after wave. Isn't that enough? What does it matter if we die? But now we two brothers have to go back to face the higher-ups." Sigh. Yi Shiwen said with a sigh. "Then let's not talk anymore. We will leave first." When Yi Shiwen brought Yi Qianhe and Yi Qianhe into the mountain, one of the masters touched his head and said, "Why do I feel that these two people are a bit strange?" The master of the 8th level of the law manifestation realm said indifferently, "What's so strange about it? There are all kinds of people in the Revolutionary Army. This is very normal." Damn it, these traitors should all die." In the mountain, Yi Qianhe gritted his teeth and said, he didn't know how many disciples of the Yi family had died tragically in the hands of these traitors. He grew up in the Yi family and had an extraordinary sense of honor for the family. At this time, he was simply furious. Silence. These traitors can forget about leaving this time. We don't have to worry. Yi Shiwen comforted him. At this time, the two of them landed on the mountain. They glanced at the mountain range. It looked ordinary, but if they looked carefully, they could see that this mountain range was densely covered with all kinds of formations. If they weren't careful, they could die here. After hearing Yi Shiwen's words, Yi Qianhe didn't say anything. The two of them entered the cave. The entrance wasn't very big, about 5 or 6 meters wide. But after entering, it was a completely different world. After reading Huang Jiwei's and Ma Tianwen's memories, the two of them didn't feel the slightest bit unfamiliar with the place, and they walked in with familiarity. After entering the cave, there was a very long mountain path that connected to the inside of the mountain. Although it was a mountain path, it was actually very wide. It was unknown how many years it had been dug for, but it was at least a few hundred meters wide. There were many traders going in and out. These people all had a somewhat ferocious expression on their faces. They were arrogant and unruly. None of them were good people. However, when they saw the two of them, their faces revealed a somewhat flattering expression. Even among these traders, the law manifestation 8th level experts were of high status. They were not comparable to the transcendent realm 8th or 9th level experts. However, the two of them didn't pretend to be polite. They directly passed through the path and entered the mountain's interior. The entire mountain path was surrounded by many torture tools. Many disciples of the Yi family were placed on the torture tools, being tortured day and night. Screams were endless. Yi Qianhe's fists were already white from clenching them so tightly that the bones of his knuckles were visible. Seeing the Yi family disciples being tortured, his eyes were about to crack. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen was much calmer. He directly transmitted his voice to Yi Qianhe. "Calm down first. It's easy to be seen through like this." Yi Qianhe calmed down. He knew that Yi Shiwen was right. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't show it at this time. If they were seen through, they would die without a doubt. Anyway, these people would definitely die later. There was no need to be angry over the dead. Speaking of which, there is no lack of tough bones among the Yi clan's disciples. Just look at that Yi Shui who was captured for more than a month. He actually clenched his teeth and endured all the punishments. TSK, those punishments made me shudder. He was actually able to endure it. He's really tough. At this time, several people walked past Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe. The content of their conversation made Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe's footsteps slightly stagnant. Exactly. But he's not an ordinary person since he can make a name for himself in a place like the Yi family. But he's almost there. If we weren't afraid of injuring his brain and turning him into an idiot, it would be too easy to control him. But those people of the Yi family are definitely not idiots. If they really injure their brain and turn into an idiot, they won't pay attention to them, even if they go back. But for more than a month, Master Phantom Fox has been hypnotizing him day and night. It won't take long for him to be completely hypnotized. Another person giggled. What genius? In the end, isn't it the same? He will become our slave and running dog. Those people from the Yi family probably never dreamed that the genius in their eyes has become our running dog. Those people gradually walked away. Their voices also gradually faded away. Yi Shiwen breathed a sigh of relief. At least he knew that Yi Shui hadn't been controlled. There was still a chance to rescue him. According to Yi Jinshan, if Yi Shui had been controlled, then there was only one outcome, and that was to be killed on the spot. Such people were even more dangerous because they were lurking within the Yi family. On the surface, there seemed to be no problem, but in fact, they were no longer the original people. But soon, he calmed down and didn't care about Yi Shui. They had to deal with the rebel leader first. They had to deal with the failure of capturing the Yi family disciples first. This was the real test. If their identities were exposed, they wouldn't be able to escape. Chapter 1252. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he walked along the mountain path with Yi Qianhe. As the two of them walked deeper, the strength of the rebels they encountered gradually became stronger. Gradually, they couldn't see any transcendent realm experts anymore. Only law manifestation realm warriors could be seen. These rebels became even more unruly and unruly. Yi Shiwen walked along the mountain path according to Huang Jiwei's memory. Seeing the two of them, the rebels were very indifferent. Some of them even seemed to be gloating. Even among the rebels, the competition between them was very intense. At this time, it was a good thing for them that the two of them failed their mission. You're here? The leader is very unhappy today. You better explain why you failed. Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe arrived at a palace within the mountain. A law manifestation 9th level expert came forward and sternly said to the two of them. The two of them nodded with a serious expression. The expert didn't care much. He only thought that the two of them were afraid of being punished for failing their mission. The two of them took a deep breath and walked into the palace. According to Huang Jiwei's memory, the two of them didn't even dare to raise their heads after entering the palace. After stepping into the main hall, they bowed and said, "Greetings, leader." There was no need for the two of them to kneel. After all, they were both law manifestation 8th level experts. They had their own pride. It wasn't a wise leader to humiliate their subordinates like this. Of course, it would be fine if they did it willingly. However, these rebels were the most unruly among the sinners. They were also the least likely to submit to others. Humph! The two of them only heard a cold snort. The cold snort turned into waves of sound waves that caused their clothes to flutter. The sound waves poured into their eardrums, causing their ears to buzz. "Leader, please forgive us. We really did our best. It's all that Yi family brat's fault. He's stubborn and would rather die than surrender." Yi Shiwen quickly explained. His tone was filled with fear. He copied Huang Jiwei's words perfectly. With Huang Jiwei's memory as a foundation, he wouldn't give himself away in this aspect. "Why didn't you just bring him back?" That ice-cold voice finally spoke. It was the voice of a slightly hoarse middle-aged man, but Yi Shiwen still didn't raise his head. He had a look of fear and trepidation on his face, so he still couldn't see the appearance of this person. "Leader, the situation was too urgent at that time. We had already alerted some other members of the Yi family. There was no time to capture him, so we could only choose to kill him to avoid exposing our secret." Yi Shiwen continued to speak in fear and trepidation. These things were all true. The highest level of lying was 90% truth and 10% falsehood, and that 10% falsehood was the key. Huang Jiwei and the others had indeed killed the Yi family disciples on the spot. The only difference was that they had not been able to escape in the end. Instead, they had been captured and all their secrets had been read. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Shiwen felt a tyrannical divine thought sweep over his body. It was as if it wanted to see through his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys in an instant. There was no way to resist it. Fortunately, he had already thought of this situation before coming and had also put on a disguise. But even so, Yi Shiwen's back was drenched in sweat in an instant because he didn't know whether these disguises would work or not. If they didn't work, he could only unleash his full power, take out the emergence immortal exterminating saber, and rush out. He even thought of using the emergence immortal exterminating saber to sneak attack this leader. Even if he was an expert half a step into the celestial realm, If he was attacked by the emergence immortal exterminating saber directly, he would probably be seriously injured even if he didn't die. But that was a choice made as a last resort. He wouldn't make that choice unless it was the last resort. Yi Qianhe, who was next to him, was also so nervous that his whole body was tense. But that divine thought only swept over them once, and it didn't seem to find any flaws, so it was withdrawn. The two finally breathed a sigh of relief. The biggest problem of this undercover operation was that they had to get past this expert half a step into the celestial realm. After that, the danger later would be much smaller. After the leader pondered for a moment, he unexpectedly didn't continue to lose his temper. Perhaps it was also because he considered that an expert at the 8th level of the Transcendence realm was a rare talent, even among the rebels. This time, your mission failed. Originally, your martial arts should have been abolished, and you would be demoted to useless people. But considering that you kept our secret and didn't let the Yi family's lackeys discover our secret, it can be considered redeeming your merit. For this mission failure, I will deduct 1,000,000 contribution points from you. Do you have any objections? The leader said. As he spoke, a great pressure crushed over the two of them. The pressure of a half-step into the celestial realm was a great deterrent for the two of them. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen found that Yi Qianhe, who was next to him, was showing signs of being unable to withstand it. With the protection of divinity, although he pretended to be in pain, the pressure had no effect on him at all. It could only penetrate the surface of his body before it was blocked by the divinity. Whatever discomfort he felt was just an act. But for Yi Qianhe, facing the pressure of a half-step into the celestial realm was really a very uncomfortable thing. Yi Shiwen even caught a glimpse of some fine and dense cracks on his face. Although it was not obvious, it was enough to make Yi Shiwen break out in a cold sweat. At this time, Yi Qianhe couldn't help but use his martial arts to resist the pressure. At the same time, he used his martial arts to constantly repair the disguise on his body. If the disguise broke under this pressure, their identities would immediately be exposed. There was no doubt about it. At this time, the leader also seemed to have noticed Yi Qianhe's abnormal state and looked over with some doubt. At this time, Yi Shiwen calmly stepped forward and blocked the majority of the coercion that Yi Qianhe was enduring. Suddenly, Yi Qianhe revealed a much better expression. The numerous cracks on his face also began to repair one by one. Yi Shiwen also breathed a sigh of relief and then said, "Leader is wise and mighty. You dealt with this fairly. We are already lucky to have escaped this disaster. How could we dare not accept it? As long as they got through this, nothing else mattered at all. As for the contribution points of the traitors, they could deduct them however they wanted. So, what if they were all deducted? Why would he care? At least you know it's good for you. But don't think this matter is over. Soon, new tasks will be arranged for you. If you still can't complete them, then you'll have to die," the leader said coldly. However, the leader seemed to still have some doubts. He couldn't see any flaws in Yi Shiwen, but he seemed to have found something suspicious in Yi Qianhe. Yi Shiwen could also feel it, and his suspicious gaze fell on Yi Qianhe. "Yes, then we will take our leave first," Yi Shiwen said hurriedly, not daring to stay any longer. He couldn't guarantee how much longer Yi Qianhe could resist. If Yi Qianhe collapsed, then all their efforts would have been for naught. He had no other way but to escape. Yi Qianhe was about to turn around and leave as if he had been pardoned. "Wait!" Suddenly, the leader spoke. He had long suspected that there might be a problem between the two. At this time, he finally couldn't help but shout. Yi Shiwen's body froze and instantly became extremely tense. He even had the urge to wake Yi Mo and activate the emergence immortal exterminating saber. On the other hand, Yi Qianhe's side was showing signs of collapse. He had been enduring the crushing pressure of the leader's pressure all this time, and at this time, he couldn't hold on any longer. With his back to the leader, his eyes were lifeless. This time, they were bound to be discovered. If they were discovered, then they could only choose to fight to the death. Suddenly, a terrifying explosion came from the top of the mountain. The violent vibration could even be felt in this palace. The two's faces lit up. Yi Jianshan, and the others had launched an attack outside. Sure enough, the leader's attention was originally on the two, but now he was suddenly attracted by the strange movements outside. "Leader, it's not good. A large number of Yi clan experts have surrounded us." The ninth-level Transcendence Realm expert, who had been guarding outside, received the report and hurriedly ran in to report. "What? How did the Yi clan find this place? Could it be that you two brought them in?" The leader was furious, and his suspicious gaze fell on the two. After all, this place was relatively hidden. It had not been discovered by the Yi clan for many years. How could it be so coincidental that the Yi clan had discovered it today? Yi Xuan quickly turned around and cupped his hands, looking as if he had been wronged. "I'm innocent. This is impossible. We have confirmed that it is absolutely impossible for anyone to follow us." At this time, he finally saw the appearance of the leader. It was a middle-aged man with a ferocious face. At this time, his eyes wandered between the two of them, as if he was wondering if they were the ones who had brought them here. Boom! 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 The attacks from above became more and more intense, breaking through several formations. Then, a terrifying coercion of the half-step celestial realm swept down, causing his expression to change. A half-step celestial realm expert had made a move, so he had no choice but to ignore it. The gap between the half-step celestial realm and the transcendence realm was huge. If there was no half-step celestial realm expert making a move, it was simply invincible. So, after thinking about it, he did not continue to entangle himself with the two. His figure directly turned into a stream of light and rushed out of the palace. Yi Xuan and Yi Qianhe finally breathed a sigh of relief. They had finally passed this hurdle, especially Yi Qianhe, whose body had some undetectable cracks and almost collapsed. Chapter 1253. The expert at the ninth level of the Law Phase realm did not stay for long and quickly left the palace. "Traitors, accept your death!" Yi Jinshan's roar came from outside, and a huge shock was transmitted directly into the palace. Yi Xuan and Yi Qianhe looked at each other, feeling lucky to have survived a disaster. If Yi Jinshan had not launched an attack in time, they might have died here today. "I'm sorry. I couldn't resist the coercion and gave myself away," Yi Qianhe said. "No worries, it's all in the past." Yi Xuan grinned and said. He knew very well that the leader wanted to repel the Yi clan's attack and then deal with the two suspicious people. But did he still have a chance? Yi Xuan knew very well that he did not have a chance. The Yi clan had gathered so many experts just to launch a thunderous attack. How could they give him a chance to turn the situation around? After escaping this disaster, as long as they were careful and didn't encounter the experts at the ninth level of the Law Phase realm, they should not be in much danger if they saw through their identity. Now that the outside has launched an attack, it's up to us. If they find out that things are not going well, they may kill all the Yi clan's disciples. We must save as many as we can before that happens, Yi Xuan said. This was the real reason why Yi Jinshan had sent the two undercover agents. It was not difficult to break through the station. With Yi Jinshan's means, it would not take long. But even if they broke through, the Yi clan's disciples inside would be slaughtered. None of them would be able to escape. "Well, let's go. Time is of the essence," Yi Qianhe said. Yi Xuan and Yi Xuan quickly walked out of the palace. Along the way, all kinds of experts were hurriedly coming in and out of the palace. They were hesitating when the people of Yi clan suddenly found them here. They suddenly became nervous. Although each and every one of them was arrogant and unruly, and each and every one of them clamored to take revenge on Yi clan, but the terror of Yi clan had always shrouded their hearts and hadn't truly eased even for a moment. It was like an incomparably terrifying shadow that simply couldn't be dispelled. It was a terrifying legend, so although these rebels were very arrogant, they could only be insolent in the shadows. They were like street rats. They didn't dare to expose themselves. Under the authority of the Yi clan, these people were arrogant, but at the same time, they were also very self-abased. Under the authority of the Yi clan, they had to bow their heads. For countless years, the Yi clan was the master of this region. They were also the only master. No one could overthrow the rule of the Yi clan. Before they were discovered by the Yi clan, they could still be unscrupulous. However, once they were discovered by the Yi clan, they immediately panicked. It was as if doomsday had arrived. A sense of panic enveloped this place, making it seem like a land of despair. Both of them appeared inconspicuous among these people. All the powerful experts were running towards the outside of the cave, whether it was to defend against the enemy or not. Bang! Yi Shiwen kicked open the door of a cell. Several rebels were abusing a disciple of the Yi clan inside. They were startled when they saw Yi Shiwen and Yi Shiwen rushing in. "What are you doing?" However, before they finished speaking, a golden light flashed by, and a few bloody lights flashed. These few transcendent realm warriors were directly beaten into a bloody mist. They weren't Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. Yi clan's disciples who were being abused didn't have the time to figure out what was going on. They saw a golden light flash, and they disappeared from the entire prison cell. They entered Yi Shiwen's Tianyuan mirror. Time was of the essence. He didn't have time to explain anything to those people. While the mountainside was in a state of chaos, he would save as many people as he could. The two of them exited the cell with lightning speed. At this time, the entire mountainside was in a state of chaos. Hence, those people didn't notice the changes here at all. Yi Shiwen and Yi Qian's speed was extremely fast. Those who stayed behind to guard the place were mostly transcendent realm warriors. Even if there were occasionally law manifestation realm warriors, there were very few of them, let alone Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe, who were already at the 8th level of law manifestation realm. Victory and defeat were often decided in an instant. Although these transcendent realm experts were stronger than those outside, they were no different from chicks in front of Yi Shiwen. As for those below the transcendent realm, they weren't qualified to be thrown into the law enforcement heavenly prison. They were usually executed on the spot. Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe were very efficient. In a short while, they had already rescued more than 30 Yi clan disciples. In reality, there weren't many Yi clan disciples in the mountainside. After all, many of them had been tortured to death. There was no way for them to survive. After a short while, Yi Shiwen had almost subdued them. At this time, no matter how chaotic the mountainside was, they discovered something amiss. The cells that held the Yi clan disciples were all broken, and the Yi clan experts were nowhere to be seen. The people who were being held captive had all died tragically. However, Yi Shiwen's speed was too fast. He was even faster than them. As a result, they didn't find any clues at all. Since Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe were pretending to be the two traitors, most people wouldn't suspect them even if they saw them. The Yi clan disciples had already been absorbed into the Tianyuan mirror by Yi Shiwen. Hence, nothing could be seen from their appearances. Finally, Yi Shiwen arrived at the cells that held the important figures of the Yi clan disciples. The two glanced at each other and opened the door. They heard a cold shout from inside. "Who are you? How dare you step into the cell?" Yi Shiwen looked up and saw an old man in white. He had white hair and a ruddy complexion. He had a somewhat ferocious look on his face, and there was a trace of tyrannical coercion coming from his body. At this time, he was glaring at Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe, who had barged in. The two secretly cursed in their hearts. Damn, it's a Transcendence 9th level expert. None of them expected that there would be a Transcendence 9th level expert hiding here. At this time, Yi Shiwen immediately searched Huang Jiwei's memory and found that this old man in white was the phantom fox that the traders had mentioned before. This expert at the 9th level of the Transcendence realm, who was proficient in illusions and hypnosis, also had a very high status among the rebels. Because his ability was very special, even ordinary experts at the 9th level of the Transcendence realm could only be slaughtered by him if they fell for his illusions. So, although he was only at the 9th level of the Transcendence realm, in terms of status, it was almost comparable to experts at the half-step Celestial realm. So, even though Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianhe were experts at the 8th level of the Transcendence realm, he casually reprimanded them. In his opinion, they were really no different from subordinates. "What the hell are you two doing?" The phantom fox snorted coldly. He unconsciously used illusions, almost making the two hallucinate. Suddenly, the two of them were shocked. Just a cold snort could actually make them hallucinate. The use of this illusion had already reached the peak of perfection. No wonder with the strength of a mere ninth level of the Transcendence realm, he could actually be on an equal footing with a half-step celestial realm. Yi Qianhe looked a bit absent-minded, but Yi Shiwen immediately reacted. Those illusions were about to rush into Yi Shiwen's divine sense, but they were blocked by bursts of five-color divine light from the enlightening mind ancient tree. They couldn't really hypnotize Yi Shiwen. Because of the Mingxin ancient tree in front of him and the mysterious space behind him, Yi Shiwen's divine sense could not be affected by illusions at all. Master Phantom Fox, the leader wants you to go out and help. The Yi family experts outside are attacking more and more urgently. He hopes that you can go out and help. Yi Shiwen quickly said. The Phantom Fox was a bit surprised that Yi Shiwen was able to break free from his illusion technique so quickly, but he was only a little bit surprised. He then coldly snorted and said, Really, I almost succeeded in hypnotizing Yi Shuevi clan, but now you want me to go outside and help them? Make them wait. Master Phantom Fox, it is very urgent. The leader needs your help. Yi Shiwen continued to say, Nonsense. Do I need you to teach me how to do things? Huan Hu snorted coldly. His eyes widened as waves of spiritual energy swept out. Although he was slightly weaker than the other experts at the ninth level of the Transcendence Realm, he was still an expert at the ninth level of the Transcendence Realm. His strength was undeniable. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt a burst of spiritual power sweeping over him like a tide. It seemed as if it wanted to destroy his brain in an instant, leaving no way for him to survive. The violent temper of this Phantom Fox was simply unimaginable. If it was an ordinary person, even if it was a master at the 8th level of the Law Phase realm, they would not be able to resist this spiritual attack. They would become an idiot in an instant. However, his opponent was Yi Shiwen, so he was directly stopped by the Mingxin ancient tree. Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed with killing intent. He instantly attacked. His figure was as fast as lightning, and he directly rushed toward the Phantom Fox. Chapter 1254. A murderous intent flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. He immediately attacked. His figure was as fast as lightning as he pounced toward the Phantom Fox. The Phantom Fox was feeling proud of himself. He didn't expect Yi Shiwen to dare to attack him. He was completely unprepared. Yi Shiwen attacked deliberately. In an instant, he had already arrived in front of the Phantom Fox. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly punched the Phantom Fox. Even though he was an expert at the ninth sky of the Transcendence Realm, he was more proficient in illusions than this kind of face-to-face combat. In the past, no matter what kind of enemy he faced, they would have a headache when facing his illusions. This was because his illusions had reached the pinnacle of perfection. Perhaps a meaningless snort could create an illusion scene and make people fall into it. Therefore, he was usually successful when facing experts at the ninth sky of the Transcendence Realm. Only those with extremely strong willpower could break free in a short period of time. Even so, he had never encountered someone like Yi Shiwen, who was completely unaffected by his illusions and directly rushed toward him. The Phantom Fox wasn't good at physical combat. After his illusions were useless, his strength immediately dropped by several levels. Even so, he was much stronger than an expert at the peak of the 8th sky of the Transcendence Realm. It was a pity that Yi Shiwen's combat strength could even sweep away experts at the peak of the 8th sky of the Transcendence Realm. The Phantom Fox directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Its body staggered backward. This mouthful of blood seemed to have turned into a giant beast with a large bloody mouth. It directly pounced toward Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen shook his head slightly. The scene in front of him suddenly changed. The giant beast with a large bloody mouth only spat out a mouthful of blood. What giant beast? It didn't exist at all. Yi Shiwen was secretly shocked. He didn't expect the Phantom Fox's illusions to have reached such a high level. Any random movement could cause people to fall into the illusion. If it wasn't a freak like him who had the Mingxin ancient tree, it would have been long dead if it was someone like Yi Qianhe. He took a step forward and punched again. The power of the stars in his hand began to twine around his fist, turning into a huge star. It came crashing down with unparalleled power. Boom! The Phantom Fox saw that its illusions didn't work on Yi Shiwen at all. It immediately raised its hand and emitted countless chi to block Yi Shiwen's shattered star fist. Terrifying sound waves accompanied the chi and swept in all directions. It instantly shook the entire cave. Even though the cave was reinforced by countless arrays, it still showed signs of collapsing in the face of such a terrifying battle. The cave residence was mainly used to prevent illusions from spreading. It was not intended to face such a battle. At this time, Yi Qianna had already emerged from the illusion of the Phantom Fox. He had already quietly rescued Yi Shui and a few other important geniuses of the Yi clan. The concert hall was very large, and it was more than enough to hide them. However, the Phantom Fox could only watch helplessly as Yi Qianna rescued him. There was nothing he could do because he was completely entangled by Yi Shiwen. The Phantom Wave as and Yi. Yi one. Yu as and Feng as the air as he could. Yi as Fox was. However, he was not angry. Instead, he was happy. He laughed and said, "Good, good." This punch gave him a hearty feeling. Previously, he couldn't even fight to his heart's content when facing experts at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm. With a single punch, those warriors at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm would be directly killed by him, and he couldn't beat those experts at the 9th level of the Transcendence Realm. This feeling of being stuck in the middle made him very uncomfortable. However, the Phantom Fox was an excellent opponent. It was considered a powerhouse among the experts at the 9th level of the Law Phase Realm. However, after the illusions failed, its strength dropped very quickly. Although it was still slightly stronger than Yi Shiwen, it was a good opponent. And just now, Yi Shiwen realized that the 1/3 of the energy left by the desolate blood holy fruit in his body was starting to show signs of dissolving. It made him feel like he was about to break through to the 6th sky of the Transcendence Realm. This was an excellent sparring partner. "Who are you? How dare you trespass here? When the leader comes back, you are dead." The Phantom Fox glared at Yi Shiwen. "Come back? He still wants to come back? By then, let alone him, even your rat nest will be wiped out." Yi Shiwen said with a smile. "You are not a member of the Revolutionary Army. You are a disciple of the Yi family." At this time, the Phantom Fox suddenly reacted and said, "Who else would dare to trespass here and say such words other than a disciple of the Yi family?" That's right." Yi Shiwen smiled and directly removed his disguise. Since he had already been seen through, then there was no point in continuing to disguise himself. Yi Shiwen? At this time, the extremely weak Yi Shui recognized Yi Shiwen. He had mixed feelings in his heart. He had never thought that he would need Yi Shiwen to save him one day. Although he had acknowledged Yi Shiwen's existence and thought that his future was limitless, he thought that Yi Shiwen would at most be on par with him. But now, he had become a prisoner, and Yi Shiwen was killing everyone in midair. The Phantom Fox that had almost hypnotized him was in a very difficult situation under Yi Shiwen's hands. All of this had subverted his initial perception. At this time, in addition to Yi Shiwen, Yi Qianna was also killing. The rebel masters who dared to come were fighting with him. Although Yi Qianna seemed weak compared to Yi Shiwen, he was still very strong. The rebel masters who dared to come were at most at the 4th or 5th level of the Law Phase Realm. They could not even block one move from him. He twisted their heads off. The experts who were above the 7th level of the Law Phase Realm had been sent to the cave entrance to block the Yi family's sneak attack. Boom! 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 The entire mountain trembled violently. The battle outside had reached its climax. The aftermath of the battle that seeped into the cave was enough to kill some Transcendent Realm warriors. One could imagine how terrifying it was. Some huge rocks fell from the sky and landed on the ground. Even the impregnable mountain seemed to be on the verge of collapse. At this time, Yi Shiwen shouted, "Go and save the other trapped disciples of the Yi family. Leave this place to me." At this time, a large number of experts had already left. There were only a few experts left. It was rare to see someone like the Phantom Fox who dared to disobey orders. With Yi Qin's strength, if his luck wasn't that bad, he could easily defeat them. As for Yi Shui and the others, the Tianyuan mirror's blood light had already washed over them. Although Yi Qinhe had spatial equipment, it could only store non-living things. It was far from being comparable to the Tianyuan mirror. Damn it! The Phantom Fox was enraged. He watched as Yi Shiwen brought the others away. He immediately launched an attack towards Yi Shiwen. Although the Phantom Fox was only proficient in illusion techniques and wasn't proficient in any other martial arts, it was impossible for an expert to cultivate to the 9th level of the Law Phase realm to be ordinary. He launched an ordinary punch, but it contained an extremely high level of martial arts understanding. At his level, it was normal for him to comprehend by analogy. It was just that he rarely had the opportunity to use the martial arts he learned. The horrifying aura drilled a hole in the air. It was extremely horrifying. The air vibrated violently, emitting crackling sounds. Yi Shiwen didn't dodge or evade. Instead, he ferociously punched the Big Bang Stardust Fist. Boom! 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 The two sides were like needles in an awl. No one would give in. In the beginning, the Phantom Fox completely gained the upper hand by relying on the tyrannical suppression of the 9th level of the Law Phase realm. However, as the remaining 1/3 of the desolate blood divine fruit's energy in Yi Shiwen's body was constantly shaken and dissolved by the battle, then absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's strength actually soared at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, the Phantom Fox was more and more shocked. He didn't expect Yi Shiwen to be so abnormal. His strength could actually increase during the battle. If this continued, wouldn't he have a breakthrough? If he didn't have a breakthrough, they could still fight. However, once he had a breakthrough, the situation would be completely opposite. Unlike the Phantom Fox, Yi Shiwen was excited. He could feel his strength actually increasing bit by bit. He was originally at the peak of the 5th level of the Law Phase realm. Now, he was even more tyrannical. Even the Phantom Fox was gradually being defeated by him. In other words, the Phantom Fox was slowly showing signs of defeat. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen seemed like he had just started the battle. His combat power was maintained at its peak. His spirit didn't show any signs of decline. This was the root cause of the Phantom Fox's fear. It was because Yi Shiwen was like an unkillable robot. After a few more punches, the Phantom Fox directly spat out a mouthful of blood. He was directly injured by Yi Shiwen. Then, he directly fled without looking back. Although he wasn't outstanding in all aspects of martial arts, his Qin Gong was still excellent. In an instant, he wanted to turn into a white light and escape. Unfortunately, he encountered Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's speed was even more abnormal than his. He directly stepped on a golden light and immediately chased after the Phantom Fox. A sword aura condensed in his hand and suddenly slashed down. Boom! The Phantom Fox screamed directly. His entire body was cut in half, and he died on the spot. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.